right. Thank you, everybody, for coming. This is the Board of Selectmen's meeting for May 15th, 2017. We are broadcasting live in Conference Room A, and then we do have a television playing in Conference Room B for the number of people that are here tonight. I am Melissa Zenadakis. I am the new chair. This is my first meeting as chair, so I'm going to ask everyone to be a little patient with me. We may go a smidge slower than usual. I just want to make sure that I don't skip anything. So if we could please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For those viewing at home, I just want to thank everybody who's watching, for everybody who's in attendance. I am very excited. There are lots of people here tonight, more so than our usual attendance, so this is great. I also want to welcome Lisa Farolito, who is new to our board. This is her first official meeting as well. We had a very brief meeting May 1st before town meeting to reorganize the board, but it took about a minute. So tonight is her first night, so we are very grateful and thankful that Lisa is here.
Welcome.
And so moving on forward, the first thing that we have on our agenda item is the acceptance of the minutes. Since the April minutes Lisa was not here for, she would have to abstain. Do you want to do them individually or do the first three and then the May one separate? What is the preference?
We'll do the first three because the May one Lisa can vote on. So I move that we accept the minutes of the meeting from April 10th. April 13th and April 24th as written.
And can I have a second? Can I second out of necessity? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So the first three sets of minutes are unanimous. Do I have a motion for the May 1st, 2017 minutes?
I move that we accept the May 1st, 2017 minutes as written.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. Do we have any warrants and purchase orders for signature, or have those already been signed?
Signed, but they're on the counter if you want me to go.
Oh, no, I think we're good. All right, moving on to public communications. Lisa, can you read the first one?
Pepperpalooza flyer.
Yes.
Pepperpalooza, Saturday, June 17, 2017, Pepperell Common Gazebo. What is it? Pepperpalooza is a music festival for Pepperell and surrounding communities. It's an afternoon of family-friendly musical entertainment designed to show off the best of Pepperell. Who's playing? The full lineup is still being finalized, but our headliners are Rebecca Loeb of The Voice and Roy Zimmerman, a hilarious singer, songwriter, comedian. We're actively seeking out 2 to 3 other acts to open for Rebecca and Roy and hope to confirm. What else is happening? We are inviting local businesses and food trucks to sell food and merchandise at the event. We are also inviting local charities and nonprofits to hold a table to inform the public about their organization. Who is coming? Last year, a committee member hosted a house show for Rebecca. Hold on, I went too far up. And for Rebecca and over 100 attendees with no marketing budget, venue, or opening bands. This year we hope to drive significantly more attendees from Pepperell and the surrounding communities. How are we marketing the event? Pepperpalooza.com has all of the details of the event and links to each artist's website. The website will continue to evolve as the remaining lineup is confirmed and businesses sign up. We also have a Facebook page that we will begin publicizing via our own social networks and paid Facebook ads. We will be posting in all of the local Facebook groups and asking all of our friends, neighbors, kids, teachers, coaches, etc. to spread the word far and wide. We will be printing out posters to post in grocery stores, post offices, and anywhere else we can. We are reaching out to the local newspapers to provide advanced coverage of the event and inviting them to attend and interview the musicians. Okay, I'm in. How can I participate? Sponsorships. We are looking for sponsors for the event to help fund the cost of the band, similar to the Tuesday night concerts. Sponsorships will cost $100 each, and sponsors will get to promote their business via pepperpalooza.com and hold an information table at the event itself. In the weeks leading up to the event, we will do a post on the Pepperpalooza Facebook page to promote and thank each sponsor. During the festival, the MC will also thank each sponsor as they're introducing artists. Are you a local restaurant? Great. We are actively searching for food and family-friendly beverage vendors for the event. Do you sell cool stuff? Awesome. Pepperpalooza will be a great way to introduce your shop to new customers. Reach out to Amanda Nichols if you'd like to participate at amanda@28feet.com or 857-540 0535.
Maybe we should have a line or a word limit for the.
That might be a good idea.
Roland, can you read the next
That's
one?
also posted on the website.
Right, that's what I would have said. The Pepperell Garden Club annual plant sale is being advertised for Saturday, May 20th, 8 a.m. to 12 noon, rain or shine, at the Pepperell Senior Center, 37 Nashua Road, Route 111, Pepperell. For further information, you can contact 978-501-4118, or just go to the Pepperell Garden Club website.
All right, I'm going to let you do the proclamation since Lisa had to read that entire Pepperpalooza flyer.
The Board of Selectmen would like to issue this proclamation, whereas David Mead has dedicated his valuable time with coordinating the town flag program for the town of Pepperell, and whereas David Mead has devoted his time and that of his landscaping company to honor the outstanding service of our veterans who have served their country, their Commonwealth, and their town, and whereas David Mead has demonstrated a steadfast and unyielding commitment to community service, honoring our veterans. David has spent countless hours designing and developing a flag restoration program with the Board of Selectmen and the town administrator in an effort to replace worn flags and equipment. This has been an extremely successful program, replacing 24 flags to date in town. David is a excuse me, veritable genius in this field, and he and his volunteers have saved the town thousands of dollars in assisting with this valuable program. Now, therefore, we, the Pepperell Board of Selectmen, recognizing the huge accomplishment of the renewed town flag program and David Mead's continuous faithful service to provide the town of Pepperell and its citizens, do hereby designate Saturday, May 20th, 2017 as David Mead Day in Pepperell, and call upon all citizens to acknowledge David's long service and many good deeds in and for the town of Pepperell, given by our hands and seal this 22nd day of June. What does it say, 22nd day of June? It
Oh,
should
sorry.
say-
Should be.
It should say
15th
15th day of
day.
May, 2017.
All right.
Okay, if I could just add, Madam Chair, I'm not sure David could be here
There's a typo
today.
in that, so.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
just
we just
typing
hold
it
off
out.
for that.
Yeah.
David and his,
Roland, you don't need to sign it.
No, I'm
No,
not. I'm
he's
going to
correcting the
identify
other
the typo.
typo.
Okay, as long as you got it, okay.
David and his team has really been invaluable to the town, and we're ramping up for Memorial Day, and they'll be out working very hard, I'm sure, the week leading up to it. So I just wanted to pass that along to the board and to the listening audience tonight.
And I know that's not, that being Memorial Day, it's not in our public communications, but the parade is Monday morning. Is it not for the Memorial Day parade?
Correct.
The 29th?
12 o'clock, I think it is. Yeah, on.
And I know Steve would always announce the next veteran breakfast.
I
Is
have
it the 10th of June?
The next Veterans Breakfast will be June 10th and will be hosted by Groton Pepperell Rotary Club and Massey Systems
Beautiful.
at the VFW from 8:30 to 10.
Awesome. Are there any other public communications from the town? Any other similar events people want to notify us about? All right, so moving on to the town administrator's report.
Yes, thank you, Melissa. First of all, I want to thank and welcome Lisa to the board. Wanted to recognize we received a very elaborate communication with regards to Pepperell's own Gold and Silver Girl Scout Award winners for 2017. And in your packet tonight, there's obviously a number of good things to be said. Noteworthy commitment to public service, solid and extraordinary leadership, outstanding declaration of career exploration, some of the things that these young ladies are committed to and have worked very hard to attain. And so the honors requirement, these recipients really demonstrated a solid ability in skills and goal setting, in planning and action items that they developed over their period. So I'd like each of them, and we're going to get them their own proclamations, but I'd like to recognize the Gold Award winner as Monica Desmond, maybe if you can give us a little bit about what you
Oh, I
did.
told her all she had to do was smile. See, now you're making it complicated for her.
I didn't get the
I just
memo,
pulled up my
but,
freshman year of college, so like I'm good on my feet. If
Okay.
you want me to say something.
well, just a little bit about what you did, and probably would be a good idea. Sure.
Hi, so I'm Monica Desmond, and I did just complete my Gold Award. So my project, it was called Hipster Helpers, and I made packets for the patients of St. Joseph Hospital and the and one of their rehabilitation units, mostly for people who have had some kind of hip injury and surgery. So there's a lot of things you can't do. I'm sure if anyone has had a relative who's had a hip problem, you know, like you can't bend forward. You have to sit, and you can't. Nope, that's a no. So these are just a bunch of items to help their lives, to help like make their lives a little easier as they're recovering. Each kit had about 10 items, some handmade, some purchased in them, and I got to present them to the patients. And throughout my freshman year, I actually received thank you notes from some of them, and it was really, really touching to know that I, you know, as just one single young woman, could help many people and their families. So.
Thank you.
In that spirit, the Board of Selectmen would like to give a resolution. Whereas the Pepperell Board of Selectmen supporting scouting, and whereas the Pepperell Board of Selectmen considers scouting to be an honorable undertaking, and whereas the Girl Scout Gold Award going to Monica Desmond recognizes integrity and the dedication to high levels and commitment to community, and whereas Monica Desmond has demonstrated her dedication to the service of others in achieving the Girl Scout highest, is this the highest one, right? The highest
Yep.
recognized award, the gold. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Pepperell Board of Selectmen hereby congratulate and send its best wishes to Monica Desmond on having earned the, is it the Cadet Gold?
No,
It's just
Girl
Girl
Scout
Scout,
Gold.
yeah.
Girl Scout
Girl Scout Gold Award. And we hereby set this to our hand and seal the 15th day of May 2017. So thank you.
Good work, yeah. Come on.
We'll get you a
So the next grouping worked very hard for their Silver Award recipients, and by the way,
ladies.
come on in, please. And these Silver Award winners listed as Joanna Chase of Pepperell, Abby Nick, Allison Roush, Madeline Sampson, and Sophia Couto, who I think has, a couple of you have been before us before, right? I kind of got that, okay? And the Silver Award obviously deals with the same amount of activity, and I will turn it over to Roland.
Well, we also have a resolution. I'm going to collectively do it with all the silver. Whereas the Pepperell Board of Selectmen supporting scouting, and whereas the Pepperell Board of Selectmen considers scouting to be an honorable undertaking, and whereas the Girl Scout Silver Award, we recognize Joanna Chase, Abby Nix, Allison Roush, Madeline Sampson, actually Madeline, right? Yeah. And Sophia Couto. Okay. Who have demonstrated their integrity and dedication to high levels of commitment to the community, and whereas this group of fine young ladies, I'm not going to list their names again, has demonstrated their dedication to the service of others in achieving their Girl Scout Silver Award. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Pepperell Board of Selectmen hereby congratulate and send its best wishes to Joanna Chase, Abby Nix, Allison Roush, Madeline Sampson, and Sophia Couto.
And maybe we can get the 1 minute, is that okay, Madam Chair? Maybe a quick overview, if that's possible. Joanna?
Hi, I'm Joanna, and so I created a young adult book club at the Lawrence Library for all last year. And so we created flyers, we made discussion questions, and we had a book club where kids can just talk about their books and what they love, because I know I always wanted that when I grew up. And so it was very successful, and I'm proud to say that I had a great time.
Good job. Abby Nick.
Me and Sophia put together a pamphlet with lots of community organizations and groups throughout the town and distributed them with the town and on the town website so people could become more involved with their community. We actually worked with 2 of you, and so we've come before you before and talked about it, and it was a great experience to become more part of the community.
Good job. Allison?
I created puppy care baskets, which included a blanket, homemade dog treats, and instructions on how to make them. And I handed them out to dogs at a nonprofit shelter. And I worked with the woman that helps run the shelter for my project.
Great, thank you. Madeline?
I worked with a group of 3rd grade girls at Brownbrook Elementary School, working with them with like their math skills, and throughout the second half of the year helped improve their skills in math.
Excellent. Good. And Sophia, did you want to add? I know you're together. I know you're together. Do you want to say anything at all? I mean, just.
I really enjoyed the experience.
Good job.
Good job. Well done.
Thank you very much. And we'll get you those resolutions to you as soon as we get them done. Okay?
You're all good. You're off the hot seat.
Good.
Thanks for coming in. And congratulations.
That's it.
All right,
Okay.
so we are on to your report.
Number 2, last Friday, I'm proud to announce to the board and to the listening public here tonight and listening at home that the Massachusetts School Building Authority approved the 3 schools that were before them. It was a very intense meeting. There was about $700 million worth of activity before the Massachusetts School Building Authority. And I was proud to say I was there with Joan Landers, representing the town, and all 3 of our projects that are before the voters coming up will be funded by the estimated amounts from the state that we received preliminary word for, and the Mass School Building Authority voted unanimously to approve those and to fund them. So I would just wanted to report that to the full board here tonight.
That's great.
So the next step is election.
Yes, which we'll
June
get to
12th.
Right.
as we set that date later in the agenda. You are
Yeah.
correct. The third item, just wanted to report back that on May 4th, we had the Lieutenant Governor came up and designated the town as one of 282 cities and towns in the Commonwealth for something called the Commonwealth Community Compact. And what this is it takes a series of best practices and municipal affairs, everything from finance to organizational items, and it basically allows us to get some additional brownie points going forward for other grants. And just wanted to show everybody here tonight the community compact, which we'll frame and put up in the selectman's office for your further understanding and edification. And we took our time. I want to thank, strategically, we took our time to put this in motion. I want to thank Stephen Parker, our town planner, for working hard on this. That will probably get most of the funding for our master plan. Takes pressure off the pocketbook here for everybody in town, that's a valuable thing. And Martin Kadek, our extraordinary IT director, who worked very hard to put together a off-site storage and backup system that we'll be putting forward. We haven't heard on that grant yet, but we're confident we'll get very good, solid response back from the state. And it depends on funding. As the state goes through its funding for next year, as it did for fiscal 17, which we're in, we'll have to wait and see how that plays through. And I'll keep the board fully informed. And then I also wanted to let you know, last week I attended with Ken Kalinowski the 2017 Public Water System Award winners, and Pepperell was right there in the mix as it relates to clean water for our system, and wanted to thank Ken and Joe Jordan and the entire team, Adam Dufour, and everybody that works in the system. something we take for granted. You turn the faucet on, you expect to have clean water. When you get an award like this, I think it's important to get out there, recognize the people who have been working very hard to make this happen. And once again, we were right up there with a number of communities that received awards that day. Everything from, once again, clean water to source protection, regional approaches to water supply, and the best practices would also be, I think, very appropriate here, Madam Chair, and Roland and Lisa. So that's by way of update, and that award ceremony was at Devon's last Thursday.
All right.
My report.
All right. Moving on to appointments, we had 2, and it looks like the second one for the NIMCOG was pulled, and that'll be on in June.
You are correct.
Okay.
June.
So, Lisa, can you read the first one?
Hold on.
Take your time.
The capital programs.
Yes.
Okay. We have received 3 citizens' activity forms for 2 vacancies on the capital program committee as follows: Michael Kingsbury, 2 Brandon's Way; Lisa Martin, 56A Wheeler Street; Taya Dixon Mullane, 41 Jewett Street. I have invited the candidates to attend the meeting. Lisa Martin is unable to attend as there is a North Middlesex Regional School District Committee meeting on Monday night. Miss Mullane will attend, and I know Mike Kingsbury is here because I saw him walk in, so.
Right, I hadn't heard from him when I typed this
In
up.
terms to expire June 30th, 2017.
All right. Is Taya here as well?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And Mike? Actually, would you guys mind letting them sit there and just switching just so they can sit up and we can ask them questions and go from there? Awesome.
Only 2.
I'm going to have you introduce yourselves, although I think we can probably tell who's who, but introduce yourselves anyway.
Hello, my name is Mike Kingsbury, 2 Brandon's Way here in Pepperell.
Excellent.
I'm Taya Dixon Mullane, 41 Jewett Street.
All right, great. Can you tell us a little bit about what brought you to apply for this committee?
I'm supposed to speak.
You don't have to say a lot.
I'm interested in helping out. It was spoken at town meeting that more volunteers are needed, and I'd love to help out and hopefully see some more visibility into the government process here.
Okay. And I also was at town meeting and heard the same interest. I'm actually the Associate Program Manager for Capital Renewal Planning at MIT. So this is right in my wheelhouse, where we're identifying, prioritizing, and scoping capital renewal projects for the campus. So very interested in participating.
Excellent. Do you have any questions?
No, I mean, first of all, I want to thank you, all 3, but only 2 are here tonight, for stepping up, because it really does take everybody's involvement in our town in order to make it run the way we need it to run. It's a dedication, giving up your time, and it's easy for a lot of people just to sit back and let everybody else do it. So we need more and more people to step up and really help us, in looking at this large project. So I want to thank you very much for that. I see you're also a member of the fire department
I am.
as well. Okay. But you're a software engineer, is that what I read? That's your main business, your main employment? There we go.
Pays the bills.
Someone's got to pay the bills, right? Yep. Okay. And you already told us what you're doing.
I do.
Perfectly. Fine with this. Yeah, okay.
I think, and Taya left out an important piece. She served on the finance committee for a year.
I did. I was a
so
member of
last
the Finance Committee for about a year, actually for a year, for
Right.
one year, and enjoyed that and really got a
It says
feel
right
for
here, yep.
what's going on in town and an understanding of all the departments.
Did you have any other questions or comments? Lisa,
No.
do you have any questions or comments? I want to echo what Roland said. Thank you very much. We are really excited. There has been a lot of interest just in general since town meeting for people wanting to get involved, which is awesome. We have a lot of vacancies. I can't yet see about getting anyone on the bylaw committee, so if you know anybody, we need 7 people. Alas, there seems to be not a lot of interest there, but we need more volunteers. So I know that Lisa couldn't make it tonight. I know Lisa, and this is her first year on the school committee as well in the general sense. But I think that having two new people who are not presently on another board or another committee would be great candidates to serve on this one. One, there's no conflict, but two, we have more diversification in terms of involvement on the different committees. Is there any other commentary or questions in the audience for the two candidates?
Melissa, this one, did you say the term ends June 17th?
It's June 30th, 2017.
Yes, it'll be about.
Their annual appointment.
Yes.
And then it gets reappointed.
Yep.
All right, let's check.
Do I have a motion?
Well, I'm looking to see if we have one.
Can make it up as you go.
No.
I didn't,
Just motion to appoint the two people that are in front of us. Motion to appoint Michael Kingsbury and Taya Dixon-Mullane to the Capital Program Committee.
Beautiful. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. You're in. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
The front, huh?
There we go.
Nobody likes this. It's like church. No one wants to sit in the front of the church.
There you go.
Josh doesn't come back?
It's all good. All right, so that is it for appointments. All right, so the first official action item is the summer playground.
Are we kicking them out again?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes, come on down, please.
Back in.
I'm sure they'd rather move.
Sorry, gentlemen, I know you love these seats.
Well, one, oh no, I guess there were two. I was gonna say one can sit, but maybe not.
Nancy's with me. So I am Elise Herrera. I serve on the Recreation Commission here in town.
I'm Nancy Archer. I'm the Recreation Director.
Beautiful. So what brings you in today?
So we were asked to come before you and advise as to the status of summer playground this year. So most people probably know that summer playground is I guess I could say an ancient tradition here in Pepperell that runs every summer for 6 weeks on the town field from 8:30, 9 o'clock to noon. And we have had significant declining enrollment over the past few years. At one point, so our commission is 3 members. 2 of us actually have run the summer playground in previous careers. That would be Brendan and myself. And in the time when we did summer playground, we were getting anywhere on average from 80 to 100 kids each day. With I can speak directly from my years to the early mid-2000s, there were days we were over 100 kids on that field. Last year, we were 20 to 40 kids on that field. So we had, Nancy and Brendan both spent a significant amount of time down there last summer talking to families, talking to kids, talking to staff, trying to figure out how to reinvigorate our program. We did a survey in January of this year to all of our contacts, all of our families, and we just don't think we can run a sustainable program this summer. So we are looking to take a year off, at least, look at how to possibly revamp. We have heard lots of comments about other towns that do this that have access to indoor courts and spaces. So Townsend, for example, uses their schools. Other programs that have swimming, which seems to be a big draw, which we don't have that down there on Town Field. Or other things that will sort of hook in today's kids. When you ask the children of the summer what they would like to do, they would like to go inside the community center and play video games. And we, as a Recreation Commission, are actually against that. Our goal is to get them outside and playing and doing arts and crafts and that sort of thing. So we're here to answer any questions that you might have about that in case you have questions.
You do, well, at least I know I do. From the survey that you did, do you have a sense, other than obviously just the general declining number of kids, but outside of that, what is impacting enrollment?
I don't know if we have a true sense. So our hesitation in doing surveys is who are we getting to respond? And so we emailed the link out to everyone who's ever done a program with us. We put it on the town website. We put it on social media. But even that, our numbers were not significant as far as responses. I don't know if you know the number.
We had 110 responses total. Of the 110, I think about 40 of them actually wrote in comments. They didn't just go through and click,
Okay.
which was nice. They actually gave us some
Gave some
feedback.
valuable feedback.
I can say honestly, the most predominant feedback they wanted was full-time.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was my
Yep.
assumption.
And that's what we really need to evaluate, is how can we offer a full-time program and still keep them outside?
Well, and we need full-time with extended hours. So we
Extended
don't
hours.
just need what we would consider an 8-hour day. We need an early morning drop-off
To
pre-program,
Yep.
as well as the aftercare, you know, the commute parts
Yep.
of a program.
Okay, do you have, that was my big question, and that was
Well, that
what I
was kind of,
figured it would
that's the
be.
question I was going after as well, because, one of my clients happens to be a daycare center, and they deal with that all the time. And I know that as you have, majority of people are, both parents are working, so they're not home, and they need to have that extended coverage.
The set schedule.
Right, and the traditional town programs that would run for, 4 or 5 hours just don't work because they don't have anybody to pick them up, and it becomes a problem. So makes sense why our enrollment's been way down.
And that would be a significant change to our programming. We
Sure.
are not classified as an official camp.
Right,
Because we don't serve meals, we fall into a whole new boatload of parameters
Right.
if we were to extend our hours, even just an hour or two on either side. Because we actually at one point had looked at, can we take like baby steps that way? Could we get to 2 o'clock in the afternoon with the staff that we have if we charge a little bit more money? But the lunch and the food piece of it really puts a huge change into programming. And we become a camp.
right.
Okay. Lisa, do you have any questions?
So what is going to happen to the 20 or 40 families that need their kids there this summer? Did you give them any other suggestions?
We have not given out any other suggestions or recommendations.
Did they give you any feedback as to what's going to happen to them this summer?
I haven't personally. Have you heard from anybody? No.
You're a unique program in the sense that it is probably more geared towards parents who have the flexibility, whether it's a parent at home or a grandparent or other, where they can bring them and they just want to get them out.
Right.
Or get some quiet for a few hours. Either way, whatever the motivation
Well, the
is.
parents love the idea of the kids being outside.
That's right. And they get
They
to run
want them in
around
an
and they get to
outside
play.
program.
They're
Yeah.
playing with other kids. You get that whole social dimension to it. But I think you're seeing less and less of that now because of the dual working households, or even situations where grandparents are raising their grandchildren and they're working, and so it makes it more difficult. But in that sense, though, you are unique, having a 10-year-old and having to do the camp search myself. Most of them in the area, they are much longer. They are significantly more expensive, and so you definitely have a lot of options in the sense of how you want the program to be, in terms of how you want to expand it or what you want to do with it. And however we can help, let us know.
Thank you.
Melissa, I met with Brendan and Nancy to just brainstorm ideas, to really try to find ways to jumpstart it, whether it be teaming up with other communities or looking at ways to bring in some help to look at various options. So we'll be doing that. The administration pledges its support. So
I'm saddened that we have to not do it this year, but it's not a bad decision to, if you have such little enrollment. I know that there was some difficulty, not just with the enrollment, but also being able to get the staff to commit, because if they could get a summer job somewhere else where it was more stable and or more money, again, I understand the challenge and that particular component of it too. So
Well, and we were at the point where we were asking them to take days off and asking them to, change. They thought they had 6 weeks of steady employment, and we're saying, oh, no, we don't have kids here, or we don't have enough kids for 10 staff. So who would like to go home, or who would, and that's not a good way to run their summer.
absolutely, no, I get that.
That's, most of them are college kids that are saving money for college.
Phil?
Hi.
Did I just hear you say that Townsend has a program?
Townsend does have a program.
Are we not North Middlesex Regional School System? Are we not in a system? Why don't we have Ashby, Townsend, and Pepperell get together and have one?
So the transportation is the other large piece of funding. We have done activities with Townsend before, but what it costs for us to bus and to pay for busing to anything
I mean,
is
busing.
astronomical.
Why do we have to bus them? The parents want to have this,
Oh, to do a central drop-off location?
yes, we don't have to bus them.
Where do they hold the events in Townsend? It's the Hawthorne or?
Hawthorne and Squanicook, is it Squanicook? It's right over behind the police station and the library.
So Hawthorne Brook is back there and then Squanicook's way behind that.
Way behind, so it's, yeah.
Is that open for that now? I know it had.
It's outdoors.
Oh, they don't do anything inside at all. How do they
So
manage the
they
food
have, well,
component,
they
though?
do have more freedom in that school than,
But I know
so
they've locked it down quite a bit. They don't
yeah,
have a lot.
they at one point had access to the courts and the cafeteria, and I'm not sure what their current program has.
Okay. But that's not a bad suggestion, Phil, if there's a way to combine efforts in some way.
Do like a TAP program.
Right.
Yeah.
They want to have their children have a summer program. They'll see that they get to school.
They could just drop off and pick up and
Yeah.
Townsend.
Is there any?
And they might be willing to, so to Lisa's point about, families that need, they may be willing to take,
To go to Townsend.
our families that are looking still for some shortened
Yeah.
program.
They do have before and after care too there.
Good to know. Excellent. Are there any other questions or comments from the audience in terms of this particular item?
Parents also can pool.
Do we need
So-
to vote?
No, just to report. I asked the
thought,
commission
okay.
to report, which.
Before
thank
we
you, Elise,
get
for
off
that.
the subject, so you're looking to retool for next year, so I guess that would be one of the options of looking outside to see what other communities might be able to
Right.
partner up with, to see if they're willing to, make a larger group.
Do you guys have anything else you want to add? All right.
That's
I
it.
think
Thank you
we're
very much
good.
for coming
Like I
in,
said, let
ladies.
us know
You need the
however you
seats
can
is
help.
what it looks like.
We do.
You need the seats.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the next agenda item is the Colonel Prescott statute with the Historical Commission.
Diane.
Diane.
Thank you, Elise.
You get the hot seats.
It's good to sit.
I can preface this, Melissa.
Go
So
right ahead.
Diane Cronin came and we worked together with Corey Minicino on putting a package together so that the board and the general public would be up to date, up to speed relative to, I'd say, a fair amount of work that has gone into a proposal with regards to the a statute for Colonel William Prescott. So is that a fair statement, just to kind of?
Yes.
Okay, great. So,
Good background.
Yep.
Would you like me to read the actual
Please.
document?
If you can,
That'll give you-
before you do that, if you can just introduce yourselves, because not everybody is physically present. Awesome. Thank you.
Diane Cronin, Purple Historical Commission.
Corey Mancino, Purple Historical Commission.
Thank you. All right, go right
All
ahead.
right. It was to the Board of Selectmen regarding the statue of Colonel William Prescott. Colonel Prescott has long been Pepperell's hometown hero. He is remembered throughout this community for his leadership during the Revolutionary War. His involvement in Pepperell made a significant impact during the early formation and development of the town. A statue honors Colonel Prescott at the Bunker Hill Memorial in Charlestown, Mass., but there is no easily recognizable public tribute to him in Pepperell. The Pepperell Historical Commission, charged with the preservation, protection, and development of the historical and archaeological assets of our town, is recommending a statue in Pepperell to honor Colonel Prescott and to educate the public on the history of the region. We are recommending fundraising to achieve the goal. Former Commission member Frank Killick worked lengthy research on a statue for Colonel Prescott, and we want to build upon this information, and Commission member Corey is developing a preliminary plan to move the project forward. So Frank has already done some background. We want to further that effort. The Commission seeks the Board of Selectmen's approval to accept gifts for this purpose as defined in Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 8D. The Commission is seeking approval to establish a gift account with the town/town accountant to effectively manage funds by having the proper oversight of town organizations with established procedures, credibility, and longevity. The statue in Pepperell, as a local tribute to Colonel Prescott, would be an impressive symbol that was made possible through the desire of the people. The statue's image would enhance the patriotic character of the town and provide historical remembrance of Colonel Prescott and all patriots for generations to come. From the Historical Commission.
Thank you.
And with that, I attached some relevant legislature. The first point on that, which I can give you copies of at some point, I don't know if you have had any chance to look through that.
We have
Yeah.
copies in our package.
That will tell you, the background on the establishment of historical commissions, our power, our authorities, and then also that we are allowed to do fundraising, and also those documents show the kind of code of conduct that we should use when we do fundraising. So we wanted to see if we could get the approval of the Board of Selectmen, because that is what's required according to current legislation that changed around November of last year, that requires in towns for the Board of Selectmen to approve. So we were hoping that you would approve the commission to do the fundraising, to actively be involved in doing that, and to set up a a gift account with the town, managed by the town, with some oversight by the Historical Commission. And those funds to go in that town so that it's visible to the public and managed with the town oversight.
Just a couple of questions, and I imagine Roland and Lisa probably have questions as well. Where are you thinking of putting the statue?
We were thinking about putting the statue actually across the street where the Bunker Hill Memorial is, probably facing the flag itself, more the statue being in front of it, considering his grave is actually right over the stone wall, actually, not too far from there as well.
And what kind of size are you looking at, or have you not gotten that far yet?
Yeah. Before we put this together, this will give you just a quick overview, bulleted form.
Beautiful. Like bulleted form.
Yeah. And that'll show you that we're looking at two different kinds of statues. One, and the prices associated with them, one that would be a full size, like a life size. The sculptor who's already done this work and the different statues that he's done in the past. And there's also a backup option of doing just a bust of Colonel Prescott. But the preference would be a life-size,
So you'd have to
recognizable statue.
raise $45,000 to do that.
That would be the minimum baseline. There's also, needs to have a solid foundation because the weight begins to, sink. And then a plaque so that we can describe, some background. And then there's always maintenance, right? There has to be a good maintenance plan in place.
There is.
And a statue like that, it's going to need some cleaning, but not really a lot. Actually, they're 90% copper,
Right.
and so they might get a little green. But some communities want the green statue, some communities want the bronze-looking statue. So depending upon what we decided to go with,
We are a green community, so that would...
we're a green community. Good point. Touche.
Do you know about? So I know on here you have the life-size 45,000 without foundation estimate, and the bust only 12,000 without a foundation. Did they give you an idea roughly on how much the foundation and the plaque would cost, as well as the maintenance component?
We haven't really gone
No,
to
that would be a
that
third
level.
party.
We'd have to go to somebody else, right, and get a price from them, because the sculptor, he does a statue. He would point us in the right direction of who else we could use, and some best practices. But we would have to go and do that research, and we haven't gone that far until we, with all due respect, get, do that.
Do you have questions?
No, you pretty much asked all the questions. Phil's got a question, though.
I'd be concerned as to where exactly it's going to be sitting out there. I mean, if it's going to be interfering with traffic or anything because of the size.
Yep.
Which is why we were thinking that right near the Bunker Hill Memorial
get you
Bench
after.
that's there, which is right across from the town hall, which historically is the center of Pepperell's, where the early meeting house was. It's where the Liberty Pole was first raised with Prudence Wright, and Colonel Prescott was there. And so that's a pretty good location, and I think that wouldn't be too bad with traffic. But I do think my recommendation is that we come back once we've done more research, and we get your feedback too, because this will be on town land.
Right.
For you to say, what is your opinion? What do you think? So you see the bulleted list gives you some basic information, just baseline, right? We need to come back and really ferret out those other issues that you're bringing up and look at maintenance and things.
Phil?
This committee's already got a sizable project going down at the Rotary. That's gonna be a sizable expense. I don't know how far along they've got with it. I know I've donated some money for it, but how far along are they with that? And here they are gonna start another one of a sizable amount of money. I think they ought to finish one before they start another one. It's just my opinion.
Well, the other ones I don't think are the
Yeah, they're not us, though, Phil.
commission, but that raises a good question. Do we know where
thought
the
you were the
others
same people.
are?
No.
In the general
Global War on
sense,
Terror.
has anyone come back to us with updates
They're
or?
on that same committee, though,
We
right?
could ask them to come to a meeting in
Yeah.
the next couple of weeks and give an update.
So Phil, you're referring to the GWAT group?
Yeah.
I think they still have a substantial amount of money to raise.
Yeah.
But I can't, I'm not on the committee, I can't speak, but just, I know people on the committee and I believe they still have a substantial amount of money.
Yeah, I think they've done an excellent job and they are well on their way.
They're well on their
And they
way.
do have quite a bit of money, but they still have, to your point, they've got a ways to go. It is the Global War on Terror Monument,
Aren't you on that committee?
and,
Sure.
no, they're separate.
You may have a
They're separate, though.
doppelganger on that particular committee.
No, he's not on that committee.
It's separate, Phil.
This would be completely separate, and this would be through the historical commissions,
Yeah.
which is the town organization. The other one is not.
Right.
I mean, I think a motion or some ability for them to move ahead to establish an account and then come back to the board at a date certain to explain to us where things are and some more research and maybe get updates.
Well, I will move that we authorize the Historical Commission to establish a gift account for the purpose of raising funds to erect a statue for Colonel Prescott, but to also come back to the board at a future date and keep us apprised of how they're doing, how their fundraising is going on, and with additional plans.
And I'm just gonna supplement your motion a little bit. And that we're not approving anything beyond that
Right.
particular step at this point. It's just the account part, so you can raise.
So those in the back of the room, I move that we authorize the establishment of a gift account that will enable the Historical Commission to go out and start fundraising and to continue the process to move it forward, but have to bring it back to the board so we can review their plans and their updates as they progress with this project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, it's unanimous. You can start
Thank
your
you very much.
fundraising.
Good job. See you.
Thank you.
All right. So our next three items are somewhat interrelated, but I'm going to actually take them a little bit out of order. I'm going to do 6.5 before 6.3 and 6.4 because we have town council here. Ned, can you give us an update on those?
Well, I can do 6.5, but 6 point, well, they are tied together, really. I think
It may flow better in this
6.4
direction, so.
6.5 is 3 separate open claims for open meeting law violations. 6.4 is the dealing with the special town meeting petition. And I'll do 6.5 first if you wish, but, okay. Well, I'll start with, the town received 3 open meeting law violation, allegations. The first one was from a Mr. Grover Pillsbury. It was received on May the 4th. The second one was from a Carolyn Adab, received May the 8th. And the third one was from Amanda Raymond, received May 9th, okay? They were all generally alleging an open meeting law violation of the April 10th meeting, okay? I'll start with the first one, which is Mr. Pillsbury, whose complaint read, the Pepperell Board of Selectmen Town Administrator violated mass open meeting law by voting to regionalize dispatch facilities out of Pepperell. This change affects all residents who should have been subject to an open meeting and vote from Pepperell voters. My assumption is that the allegation is that, first of all, you violated the open meeting law by voting and it wasn't on the agenda, it's to say vote. And the second thing is that this is something a town meeting should handle. The first of all is, I had an opportunity to review it, and the complainant alleged that the April 10th vote was defective because, it did not state that they vote on that item. But if you look at the April 10th agenda item in question, it's an action item numbered 6.1. Specified that the subject was discussion, Regional Emergency Communication Center, Beverly Woods, J. Donovan, and NMCOG. Okay? This is, the open meeting law does not mean that you have to specify each and every action that the Board of Selectmen or any individual Board of Selectmen may or may not take. It has to do with fair notice being given to the public, that this is what's going to be on the agenda, all right? And if you say the OML itself, it says, except in an emergency, in addition to any other notice required by law, the public body shall post notice of every meeting at least 48 hours prior to such meeting, excluding, Saturdays, Sundays, and legal holidays. And that's with the right requirement. And the Attorney General's guidance is very similar. Basically, it's a fair notice standard. And I've seen open meeting law allegations a lot, and I don't think this particular allegation as to the technical aspects of the April 10th meeting, is valid. I would respond to them on that one. The second thing is the allegation that the adoption of the RECC with the North Middlesex Regional RECC required a vote of town meeting. That's directly contradicted by the statute. The statute is Chapter 6A, Sections 18P to 18V. At Section 18Q says, if a district planning committee recommends that a regional 911 emergency communication district be established, the city councils or the Board of Selectmen or town councils of member municipalities shall vote on whether to accept the proposed district agreement. Okay? In other words, the contracting authority is the Board of Selectmen. The approving authority is the Board of Selectmen, not town meeting. This is a little different from other statutes where sometimes they'll say city council or town meeting. There's a reason for this. The Board of Selectmen is the executive body of the town, and they're designated as the contracting authority and the approving authority for RECCs. That's statutory. Town meeting cannot overturn that. The contract has been entered into. The Board of Selectmen doesn't even have the authority to terminate that contract right now. You have a 2-year period of time. If you gave notice today, the contract would terminate in 2 years, as long as you paid all your assessments. So that's the status. The Board of Selectmen is the authority for granting the contract. The second letter was from Ms. Adab, and she had essentially the same allegations. The invalidity of the vote, because it said the word decision was not listed on the agenda, but the agenda item was listed on the agenda under action items. Okay, I do not have a problem with that this was a valid, open meeting as to that agenda item. Second thing, Ms. Adab was a little bit more specific, stating that, in her opinion, the approval of the RECC had to go through the town meeting. As I already stated, the statute creating RECCs says it's done by the selectmen.
Ned, if I can just repeat that statute, just so if anyone wants to write it down or if they want to look it up.
I got a couple of extra
Mass,
copies. Yeah.
Beautiful. It's Mass General Law, Chapter 6A, Section 18, just in case anybody wants to.
Well, actually, not all of 18. It starts 18P and through
Yes.
B. The first part of 18 is other stuff.
Yes.
18P through V. Yeah,
He's gonna finish, and then
section,
I'll
the
take
specific section dealing with the awarding of the RECC contracts is 18Q. Okay, and the third allegation was from Amanda Raymond, who did not include any claim that the awarding of the contract was outside the authority of the selectmen. The other two complainants had alleged that the selectmen didn't have the authority, had to go to town meeting. That's not correct. But this one did not allege that. It really alleged only, a violation of the open meeting law by failing to properly list the items on the agenda. I do not find any merit in any of the three complaints, and I think that this should be the town's position as to the three complaints. And that's all I can say about those three complaints. It's pretty straightforward. It's what is fair notice, what is a fair hearing. I mean, and it was listed as an action item, and it was clearly identified what the subject was going to be.
But it didn't say vote. Does that make a difference?
It didn't say vote. That's the gist of the complaints, is it just because you didn't say vote, that invalidated the meeting on April 10th as to the item. Listed as action item, and the subject was clearly identified. And according to most cases under the open meeting law that I've seen, and the guidance from the Attorney General, that's it. I mean, that's what it is. I don't believe it's an open meeting law violation. I would suggest that the responses be sent to the complainants and also sent to the Attorney General for final rule. The Attorney General is the final word on this. Okay. And we have to respond within 14 working days.
Okay.
And send the complaint in with the response.
So it's okay, just to be clear, it's okay for an agenda to say discuss and not vote, and a vote can be taken?
Well, it's listed as action. Yes, it is. It is.
Okay.
As long as the subject before the board is identified. Okay. If you look at any routine public board notice, they don't specifically say, we're going to vote on this today, we're going to vote on this today. They identify what the purpose of the hearing is, okay, what's going on, all right? And particularly in this case where it says action items, not discussion items, and action. It wasn't like somebody put this under old business, or tried to open it up under old business. It was listed as an action item and clearly identified. And that meets the requirements of the open meeting law. And I would suggest that first of all, the complaint, together with the response, be sent into the Attorney General as required by the open meeting law for the Attorney General's, final resolution.
Before I open up for questions, do we have to vote to do that?
Yes, I would vote each one separately to attach Ned's opinion on the matter directly as a response to each individual, and also copy the open meeting section of government of the Attorney General's office.
Okay.
Right.
So just to be clear, I will open it up for questions, but the questions, again, are very specific. You can ask questions about the open meeting law or these particular complaints, but the RECC is not as a topic tonight. I just want everyone to understand that is not an agenda item. I do have more information about the informational night. Right now, we're looking at between June 7th or June 14th, holding a number of workshops throughout the day at different times of the day. So we're trying to coordinate the specific date with Frank Posniak, who's the executive director for the state 911 department, and to have things both, again, during the day, in the afternoon, and in the evening, so we can try to accommodate as many people to come as possible. Once that date and those times are nailed down, we will provide more information so people can come and ask questions. But this is why I had you do it slightly in reverse than the other way around.
Well, what the agenda item for this should have been, formulating town's response to open meeting law complaints, and that's what I'm suggesting is that the board adopt the results of my research on it as to each of the three complaints. But again, you can't just not send them into the Attorney General. They have to be sent in
Correct.
with your response within 14 working days.
Understood. Do you have, I know Lisa asked some questions. Roland, do you have any questions?
No?
Did you have a question about?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Bill Greathead, 126 Brookline Street.
Thank you.
I understand the opinion of town council, and I'm happy that it is going to the Attorney General's office. It needs to be reviewed. The way our REC law, bylaw, or whatever was written, it's up to the selectmen to make, or the town council, the selectmen to make the decision. Okay, the selectmen in this town are the voice of the citizens of the town. Okay, the citizens of the town have spoken that they don't want this. Okay, and it's being ignored. Thank you.
Grover Pillsbury, 18 Maple Street, Lot 58, Pepperell, Mass. I have read much on this.
On
The
this,
fire chief
can
and
you
the
just
police chief are
define,
against.
can you define what you mean in terms of that you've read?
Again, up for the regionalization.
No, I just want to stop you right there.
That's not-
That's not what's on for our agenda tonight. If you have a question or comment on the open meeting
This
law
is-
violation, we'll take
This is
that.
directly against what the town people want. And the last vote gave that a loud resounding that we don't want this. So we got a new.
What last vote?
We got a new selectman because simply of that. And, you know, this is not, you're taking emergency response out of the town to someone that has absolutely no idea what Pepperell is all about.
I understand, but so now we're gonna venture into the area of open meeting law violation, because you're talking on a topic that's not on the agenda. We cannot go there tonight. That doesn't mean that I don't wanna hear what you wanna say. We can't go there tonight.
That you people violated open meeting law and that you have basically put the town at risk.
Well, I would point out something too, that the time for filing a complaint as to the open meeting law is expired. It's a 30-day window, you know, so these are the 3 complaints we're dealing with.
Thank you, Ned. Do you have a question on this particular agenda? Okay.
Yes, I do.
Just identify yourself just for the record.
Jason Russell, Lowell Road. Question on the April 10th agenda.
Right.
If I remember correctly, discussion was 6.1, it said discussion. 6.2, it said discussion and approve.
No, it was an action item.
Right,
But it was an action item.
I
It says
understand. I get
But
my
they
point.
identified the subject, okay? That's why, if you don't like my opinion,
Sir, I just
you're
like to have
entitled
my
to it.
opinion.
You're entitled to it, but the person who's
Can I
gonna, the person who's the tiebreaker on this is the Attorney General's office, and that's where it's going.
I understand, but 6.1 said discussion. 6.2 said discussion and approve. 6.3 said discussion and vote or something along those lines. Now, some of the Mass General law that I've read, some of the one in Shirley that just happened, it basically said that, where was my quote? That the topics must be listed with sufficient detail that a reasonable member of the public could read the notice and understand what the body will discuss.
That's right.
Discuss. By looking at the action item, it looked like discussion. To nobody else, it looked like a vote, except on the next 2 agenda items, under action items, it said taken action. It showed that they were gonna discuss and vote or discuss and make a recommendation. As a reasonable human, reasonable resident of the town of Pepperell, I look at that as saying discussion, A. The next 2 items are a discussion and a vote. So
Okay.
that's where I believe the open meeting law violation takes place.
You've got
And if you
3.
look at previous minutes to that meeting, action items all say discuss and approve, or discuss and vote.
The 3 open meeting law violation allegations, okay,
Yep.
summarize exactly what you're saying, and my response is what I put out, okay? And they're both going into the Attorney General.
Right.
And my response was based on the statute, the regulations, and similar cases decided by the Attorney General's office.
Do we have any further questions or discussion up here amongst the board? Do we have a motion then?
You got somebody in the audience.
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Sure. Carolyn Adab, 19 Deerfield Drive. I'm one of the people that filed an open meeting law complaint. One of the things that our town attorney has failed to mention is one of my paragraphs has stated that this decision was made because of private discussions that happened with individuals or parties. And I'd like each one of you to either confirm or deny that you've ever had conversations with North Middlesex Regional Council governments in regards to a regional
For one
dispatch
thing,
center.
unless there was a quorum of the Board of Selectmen in one of those conversations, there is no meeting. Okay? There's nothing that restricts the town administrator or any individual selectman from deriving what information he or she, wishes to derive from whatever source. They could call NIMCOG up and ask them questions about it. They could get, literature from other RECCs. There's nothing that restricts an individual member from deriving whatever information. Otherwise, they'd never know anything. You would never get any information except that was presented in this room on any given topic.
If I could also mention.
But just before that you do, just so that those are aware, there was a subcommittee, there were questions asked during that as well in
No, I
that
was just gonna
regard.
say that, okay.
And this goes back to, what, 2009?
I have letters from May 27, 2009.
Yes, again, I just don't want to stray too far from the agenda item. Are there any other questions specifically about the 3 complaints that are pending at the moment?
And you know, again, you had mentioned that we're not talking about the regional center. You did mention some sort of
That's next.
informational session. So you did already broach that topic. And we did have supply 300 signatures to.
That's the next agenda item.
Okay,
We haven't gotten there yet. There's a reason I did things in a reverse order. It will dovetail
And I
nicely.
understand that North Middlesex Regional Council of Governments does approach a town administrator or a town manager or perhaps the selectmen, but that information should be public because none of us want it. So
Well,
this is
first of
my
all,
accusation for
I'm gonna weigh in
violation,
here.
open
I'm
violation.
going to weigh in here. How many registered voters do we have in the town of Pepperell? Over 7,000 registered voters. How many were at the election? You said the town spoke. 200 and what? 20 some odd people
500.
voted to put Lisa in.
It's 2%.
Okay,
279.
that's a small percentage of the of the registered voters in this particular town. So I don't take 200
It's a town election, it doesn't matter how many people came out to
And
vote,
I'm
they
not sure how that
spoke.
has to do with the
No,
open
well,
meeting
you're
law
the ones who are
violations that we're
saying
talking
that.
about.
You're the ones that's saying that the town spoke. The town has not spoken.
You haven't given us, you keep
And,
shutting us up. You
All
won't
right.
let us speak.
We are again getting far astray
Right.
from
But
the
no, because
agenda
you
item.
have complaints about the open meeting law specifically regarding the vote for the regional
We
call
can
center.
talk about
And you
the.
can't even talk about
We
it.
can talk about the vote, but we can't talk about the RACC. I understand it's a nuance,
I
but
would point out, however, that the worst-case scenario, the remedy would be to revote.
that is correct.
That's it.
Are there any other questions specifically on the 3 pending open meeting law violation complaints?
Since he broached the topic of my name is David Lavender, 19 Deerfield Drive. Since Mr. Nutter broached the topic of how many voters there are, how many voters there were at town meeting, how did you and Mr. Themelis make the determination that this was the proper decision for the town? How many of the voters did you talk to?
We are the executive board of the town. Our responsibility is to do what we feel is the best for the overall town citizenship. And based upon the financial obligation that would have to go forward for us to maintain our own dispatch center and even bring it up to where it should be versus going with a regional, from my view, it makes perfect sense. It's being done all over the world. And there is no reduction, no one's come forward to say, here are some actual facts that say, by doing this, there is a detriment to anybody, so.
Mr. Nutter, again, Carolyn Adab, again, we're just talking, you started broaching the topic of money. So why don't we talk about the dollars and what
You can
dollars
bring it up at the next piece, we're gonna talk about it. So let's save that for the town meeting, which is going to be discussed
That's
next.
right.
That's gonna give you all the opportunity to talk about that.
So before we move on to that, are there any other questions on the 3 pending open meeting law violation complaints?
There's Nick Pentademus,
Thank
19
you.
Palmer Road. To her request, not the other 2, but you had said that you don't have to meet as a group to research, obviously. You'd have no education on this if you hadn't. So with that being said, the decision you made that night, that decision was reached based on the board never discussing this as a group? Is that correct?
No.
Only your own research, you met that night, whatever discussion was heard that night is the extent of the board having a discussion on this, and then the decision was made.
It's not, just for clarification, this has been going on since about 2009. There had been many updates and clarifications since the establishment of a subcommittee several years ago to determine not if, but when we would regionalize.
But this
Wait, I'm
specific-
trying to clarify for you. And so in that regard, both chiefs were on it. They had the ability to ask questions, to give input. There were other members of the subcommittee who had the ability to express their opinion and give input. There were reports to the selectmen over periods of time, mostly during the town administrator's report, on updates of the subcommittee in terms of what they did, where they were in their process, what they were looking at. And that occurred on a number of different occasions, and it occurred over a period of time. There had been some changes in terms of the makeup of the Board of Selectmen, in the sense that Roland was elected last year and I was elected the year before. That happens when seats come up. Sometimes people stay, sometimes people don't. But there had been a whole history before that particular night. Phil?
Phil Drano, 9 Chestnut Street. I was here at most of those meetings.
You were probably here at all of those meetings, Phil. Most might be an
Probably.
understatement.
But the meeting that they're talking about, when you made that decision, the fire chief, the chief of police, 2 or 3 officers, I know definitely there was 2 officers,
There were definitely 2, yep.
and 2 firemen.
And David Stairs was here as well.
And the person that runs the...
This David.
Communications?
That would be David.
He was here.
He was here too.
And if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, every single one of those people said no. They didn't want it. For one reason or another. And a police officer, I think, made a good statement. If I'm out there on the street at night, and I'm in trouble, and I need backup, I gotta make a call to a stranger out in Drake who doesn't know nothing about nothing. And he's gonna finish his sandwich before he calls Groton or Townsend or wherever. And I'm gonna wait an extra 10 minutes maybe. Before I get help, I might be dead. That was his statement.
And to not get us to go too far astray off the agenda item
Well,
on the
I'm
top.
just
No,
making a
no,
statement.
Phil, I understand. We have the ability to respond to that, but this is not the forum in which for us to give that information, because again, we don't have the ability to go into that to the level of detail we'd like to this
Well, I mean,
evening.
you people are all going
That
into it.
is what the informational session is for. So again, do we have
But I
any
just wanna
comments
assure
just on
you,
the
don't
open
shut me
meeting?
off yet. Everybody tries to shut me off, and it don't work.
I need you to stay on topic.
I'm just trying to tell you that, yes, for a year or more, you people worked on this thing,
7.
and I'm giving you that, you know, you didn't just think about it overnight. You didn't just walk in here and say, we're gonna do this. Yes, there was work put into it. There was a committee that went here and there and everywhere looking at it. But, the point I'm trying to make is, your people in town who are out there at night, who are the ones that do the running around, said no, and you didn't even blink your eyes. That's my point.
Crystal Jeffries, Field Street.
I'm sorry, I didn't get your name.
Oh, Crystal
Oh,
Jeffries.
Crystal.
Jeffries. For the sake of being on topic, on the agenda where we are at now with the 3 open meeting law allegations, I will recognize that, but I want to put my 2 cents in. Because I think it's fair. I question the validity of the vote that occurred by the Board of Selectmen on April 10th, and this is why. At marker 8046 on the video from that meeting, Mr. Roland Nutter, when it was asked if there were any questions from the Board of Selectmen, Mr. Roland Nutter stated, "It doesn't sound like we had any community input. When the committee was meeting," and I suspect he was referring to the committee doing the research for regionalizing, When the committee was meeting, did the committee hold any public hearings? Someone other than Mr. Mark Andrews, off camera, answered no. Mr. Mark Andrews stated that the committee was in charge of doing that. This has been in the works since September 2015. Ms. Melissa.
This is fine.
You know I get nervous.
Fine, you're doing great.
Zanagakis
Fine.
stated that it's been on the Board of Selectmen agenda. It should be no surprise. Based on the information that you gathered that evening, and when you were asked, Mr. Nutter, if community input was received by the committee, the answer was no. That's why I question the validity of the vote and if it was the good choice. Thank you.
Well, we don't get, I just want to respond to that. We don't get.
There we go.
We don't, this is a contract much like the police, fire, ambulance, and all those employment contracts are done. They're not done they're not done out in the public.
Mutual aid.
Okay, anything, mutual aid, these are, contracts are done by the executive board. You can't negotiate contracts at a public forum where you've got a town meeting or stuff like that, because emotions run rampant. You're gonna have people who are for, you're gonna have people against, you never get anywhere. That's why the executive board is charged with that responsibility of doing what they feel, in their mind, is the best for the overall citizenry of the town. And although I asked that question and the input was, no, there wasn't, I also understand why there isn't, because it is a contract, it is something that says, what makes sense for us going forward? When taxpayers are being asked to spend literally, millions of dollars every year for things, here's an opportunity for us to take some of that money back and use it for more police, more fire, more EMTs, rather than having to spend it on equipment that, quite frankly, yes, it's an important piece that we need, is dispatch, but it happens all over the world where we have regionalization. And if there was an issue with that, which we'll talk more about next.
Mr. Rowland, Mr. Nutter, Carolyn 8 Ave, 19 Deerfield Drive. Just to kind of go on your point again, where we're talking about millions of dollars, we're not talking about millions of dollars here.
I said overall, we're spending millions of dollars as taxpayers in the town. If we can now save some.
And I'm very intimate with North Middlesex Council of Governments. I'm very intimate with the way that they go about and gather information. They definitely have the ability to go about and have public forums. They definitely have the ability to go out and do SWAT sessions. I've been on the zoning review committee. We were going to do that when we were talking about zoning review. So I don't understand why in this specific situation, why for, what is it, $200,000 savings, that they went and said, boom, it's done.
It's more than that, but again, we're going to save the details for the informational night. Do I have any more questions
Informational night
or
doesn't cut
comments
it.
on
Sorry.
the open meeting law violations that are before us at the moment?
Yeah, our selectman, Mr. Nutter, had stated that...
Can you just introduce yourself?
Mike Schrader,
Thank you.
153A Hollis Street. He had stated that the turnout at vote was terrible. I agree. It was terrible. It should have been 6,000 people, but it wasn't enough to get the job done. The second thing is, if this is so good, why didn't you put it out for town vote?
Exactly.
Let 7,000 people vote.
Because the law doesn't allow us to do that.
No.
The law,
does
there's a
not allow
statute
this.
that says this is how it has to be done.
7,000 people in town can't make a decision.
Crystal, do you have another on-topic question?
With all due respect, Mr. Nutter, I wanted to say thank you for everything that you had to say with my statement. My final and last question on this is...
You say that now.
If the piece that you mentioned that you specifically asked about, you specifically asked the committee, did you seek public input? If that was not an important piece of this whole process, why did you ask?
I asked because the chiefs and the police officers who, are dealing with this said they didn't like it. And so that's why I wanted to know if they had any input into it. And obviously, the chief did.
But the question was directed towards the committee who did the research.
I want to get back to that one point that was made up. Why did they vote at a town meeting? Because the awarding authority and the contracting authority is the Board of Selectmen. Town meeting couldn't adopt an RECC if it wanted to.
Just to give people an example of the kinds of contracts that are under this particular statute, the mutual aid agreements with the different towns that help us actually cooperate with each other when we need mutual aid from a public safety standpoint. The Mass Toss program with the Board of Health. These are all intermunicipal agreements that the town has the ability to do under this particular statute. This one obviously is slightly more controversial and emotional than your usual one, but ultimately the statute does require it be done at this particular level. Do we have any other questions that are specifically on the agenda item?
This is back.
Promise.
This is back to Roland.
Okay.
Right, it's not, it might, whatever. Jason Russell, Lowell Road. North Middlesex Regional School District. It's a regional school. We touch towns. Kind of touch Ashby. Because we join towns in the middle. We go to Ashby. Towns in the middle. Drake and Tewksbury have nothing in common with that. Groton, if we had to regionalize, Groton would have been a better choice with Groton and Dunstable and Purple. Surrounding towns that touch each other.
You're not.
Tewksbury.
You're not wrong, except that there are other considerations that have to go into it.
The other
So-
considerations are the radio transmissions will go from Pepperell to Groton, Chelmsford to Tewksbury.
At
That's
300,000 kilometers per second.
That's 4 points of potential failure, where we have Groton. That was right there.
There are, the other considerations have to do with the town on a global level. And so one, Groton is not a regional center. And so, let me answer the question. I gave you your time, let me answer. Everyone, if we can just be respectful of each other, that would be great. So, if we were to do something with Groton, it would be us going into their existing infrastructure, their existing building. There's barely enough room for them, let alone to add us. Our employees would have little to no employment opportunities. Let me finish. And one of the most important things about being in a regional center or in any kind of intermunicipal contract, whether it's RECC, whether it's Mass Toss, whether it's anything, you want to have a say. You want to be able to have a vote on things that affect whatever the particular contract is in question that you're dealing with. You don't want to be in the position where somebody else has to make decisions for your town. Groton, at least at this point in time, wasn't giving us that option. And this is a very strong word. I know the chief in Groton, I like him a lot. But it would have been more of a dictatorship environment. Oh. No, again, it's a word. There would have been no vote for us.
It's highly offensive word, okay?
I don't mean it
right,
in...
the man's the chief of police in the town of Groton. Okay, he's an individual, he's a very good
and
man.
And he's a wonderful
and for
man.
someone to call him a dictator.
No, that's not what I said. What I said is they would not give us a vote. And so it would have been in the sense that what they say goes, and we have to follow along. That does not mean they would make bad decisions. It doesn't mean that the decisions would be incompatible with decisions we may make. But if there's a change in leadership over there, if there's a change in the personality dynamic, there are so many things that can affect contracts in the long term. We have to look not only right now and who the people are that are involved today, but we have to predict for the people that we don't know will be there years from now. And it's not a wise diplomatic decision for us as a town to not have a say in something so significant.
And that's how we feel as people.
I understand. And so being in Groton, while that would have been wonderful, my first choice would have been Devon's in the sense that they would have given us the vote. They've maxed out. We took too long to get involved in the process. Groton would have been lovely in the sense of them being really close. But not being able to have a say, that's a really big deal as a town. I understand where you're coming from.
That's exactly
to have another town tell us what we are going to do. And they're not here, they're not with us day to day, and so that becomes difficult. The irony is not lost on me, I promise you. So I understand. I would have loved Groton to work out personally.
The last thing, you say we're gonna have these meetings? That's like the cart before the horse, but it's already gone. I mean, you're gonna come and you're gonna try to sell
That was stuck for 2 years.
It doesn't matter.
It's done.
No one's gonna go.
It doesn't matter. You can come and try to sell us, this room is full of people that do not agree with that decision. That happens every day. That's government, that's the way it works. We understand that. Elections happen for purposes. We have another one in April of next year.
You do.
Yeah. So, we have 2 years to get out of this contract if town council said that.
That's right.
It doesn't start till January 19th.
No. Let me clarify. We are committed for 2 years. it doesn't start for 18 months from now. So it's not even
So we have
something that's
basically
in
4 years
effect.
before we can get out.
But you have to give them 2 years' notice.
Right.
Whenever you want to get out.
2 years notice?
No, it wasn't 2 years. It was the equivalent of 90 days, but we had to do our first 2-year term. After our first 2-year
Town
term.
council's saying that we can get out with a 2-year notice.
No. I will tell you, one of my, my questions and requirements, if Krista listened to the entire thing, she will
entire
know, was that I wanted to know if we could get out and what the specific terms were in order for us to get out. I read that provision very carefully. Is there anyone else who has a question on topic? Way back who has not asked a question yet. I can't see you, but I see your hand.
All right, so more of a comment. I think I
Just
speak-
identify yourself if you please.
Sharon
Thank you.
Mercurio, Boynton Street. I think I speak for all of us that we don't feel that we were listened to, we don't feel that we were respected, and that we don't trust your decisions. You're really contradicting yourselves up there. You have the police chief and the fire chief telling you they don't want this. You've got Roland saying that, no, we didn't get public comment. I'm going with this gentleman. He's saying, decision was made before you even came here. Don't tell me you didn't violate the open meeting law and met on the side and came to the table with the decision made. Because that's what it is. You cannot deny that.
We
And
can, and
now
I can
you've got-
safely say that did not
You've
happen.
got the town that does not want this. You cannot make it sound like it's just a contract. It's public safety.
Yes,
You
it
know?
is public safety.
Yes, it is.
And
you're taking our lives into your hands, and we don't agree
Okay,
with you.
well, that's for the next discussion. Right now, it has to deal with just the open meeting law violations.
As much as we would like to get into it with you tonight, we cannot.
I have a question. Linda Whitmore, River Road. When you came into that meeting that night, had you decided to have a vote?
No.
Just
No.
spur of the moment?
We did not have it.
Where'd it come from then?
You asked
So
if
that's
it
how
was a way to
sporadic
get
our
out.
public
So how
safety
could you
is?
make such a strong decision that
Yeah.
night? When you're kind of wishy-washy, well, can we back out? Do we have to stay? I mean,
I can safely say my reasons for asking were not wishy-washy about being able to back out. I draft contracts for a living. And at the end of the day, because I wasn't thrilled that Tewksbury was so far away, it was, again, I would have
Then why'd you
preferred
vote for it?
Devon's or
vote
Groton.
for it?
Because there are a significant amount of reasons that this is in the best interest of the town. Trust me, we have information we'd like to share. And at the end of the day, I wanted to make sure that if we were dissatisfied after it started, or if Groton changed and they became an actual regional center, and they had the ability to accommodate us, they were willing to give us a vote, they had the space, they had a place for our employees. If a better opportunity
You
arose,
didn't answer my question. Did you come in here that night deciding to vote? Before you came in, you sat down? No.
we don't walk in under most of our agenda items specifically saying that we are going to vote. At the end of the day, they're on our
You hadn't
agenda.
made up your mind before you came in how you voted? This is a huge decision.
It is a
for lot
huge
of people.
decision. I
And
understand
if you
that.
weren't clear.
We weren't not clear. Let me be clear.
You came in not knowing if you were voting, asking if there was a way to back out. That's like going to get married and saying, can I get a divorce? Just to ask.
To you, maybe.
I mean, no, honestly.
My reasons are my
How can you make
reasons.
such a strong decision?
Do you have a question?
I do. Grover Pillsbury, 18 Maple Street, Lot 58. I agree that there was a low voter turnout last time. I spoke with the former selectman before I went in and voted. He told me it was an executive decision. When the town voted, we made an executive decision, and I can assure you that more executive decisions will be made in the future.
All right. Do we have any other on-topic questions?
That's pretty
All
on
right.
topic.
Do we have any motions for this particular item?
We're gonna take each one individually.
All right. Do you, I think Caroline's might be the first one in the packet.
Mr.
Oh, then I stapled them together in a different order when I said.
It was Mr. Pillsbury,
I got them in alphabetical.
Doesn't matter, just pick one.
Oh, is that what you did? I had it like this.
Wait, if everyone could please keep quiet, please. Again, this is recorded, and if everybody in the back is talking, then they can't record it, please.
Okay, I move that we adopt town council's opinion relative to the open meeting law complaint form filed by Grover Pillsbury and forward such opinion to the Attorney General for final resolution.
Do I have a second?
To Mr. Pillsbury and the Attorney General.
To Mr. Pillsbury and the Attorney General.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it's unanimous. All right, that was,
So, second one that came in was Amanda Raymond's.
yep, so that was Mr.
Correct.
Pillsbury's.
Yeah.
Okay, so I move that we adopt town council opinion and forward such opinion along with the open meeting law complaint form filed by Amanda Raymond on to Amanda Raymond and the Attorney General.
Do I have a second? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, it's unanimous to get submitted. Okay, and so the last one is Caroline A.
I
Deb.
move that we adopt town council's opinion and forward said opinion as well as the open meeting law complaint form filed by Carolyn Ahab to Carolyn Ahab and the Attorney General.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the submission is unanimous
Let's
for
ask
that one as
one
well.
question, doesn't matter what you voted,
Yeah.
but just for clarification from town council. If this goes to Attorney General, and she overturns your opinion, and says they were an open meeting law violation, does that make the vote null and void?
They'd have to repeat it.
They'd have to repeat the vote.
That's the remedy under the
All
open
right,
meeting.
for
Is revote.
clarification so that people know.
Then we'd see how about a 1:30
Ned,
vote?
do you know if there's a timetable in terms of how long they take to respond to these in the general sense? I know that's a little question with the
They keep
state.
saying 30 days in all of their regulations, but whatever.
For them to respond.
That's right.
Yes,
And
okay.
there's a 30 day, there's also a 30 days seems to be very popular in that particular regulation because 30 days is the amount of time you have to make your claim for open meeting law violation in the first place. And these three were within that parameter.
The one for Shirley was dated April 6th, submitted, returned from the Attorney General May 1st.
So they were within, okay.
They were within
So
30
it's
days.
relatively
They were
timely
within 30
in the
days,
general
yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
So in theory, if it turns out that there is, at least we would have something back relatively quickly. It won't linger, which is always helpful. All right, so, then we have the special town meeting petition. So the primary reason that I asked to do these in reverse order is because the special town meeting petition specifically asked, I just want to get to it, about having the, I'm going to read it, petition to hold, actually, let me step back for a second. So for those who are not aware, there was a citizen's petition filed seeking a special town meeting, and the primary driving factor, I think, had to do with an ambulance purchase, and there were also questions about the dispatch regionalization. So I'm going to read the petition as it's typed on here, just so that everyone's aware. It says, a petition to hold a special town meeting to discuss public safety issues, including dispatch regionalization and the purchase of an ambulance of the town of Pepperell, and our town clerk did certify the signatures as they were required to do, and so there were at least the required 200, and so we now have that before us. But again, the reason I did these in reverse now to move forward again is because the issues relative to the open meeting law violation complaints addressed the issue of a town vote relative to the RACC. If we'd done them in the reverse order, it would have been a little bit more confusing, which is why I sort of reversed them. We do not have the ability to have a special town meeting or regular town meeting for the RACC because of what Ned had said. We do have the ability to do that for an ambulance. And so, Ned, take it away.
Yeah, right. Well, one of the problems I have was with the way the petition was written. You know, it's very difficult to formulate what exactly it is, except for one thing: a request for a special town meeting. So I broke it into three things. There appear to be three issues raised by the petition. Okay, number one, the petition of a special town meeting. Number two, an article to discuss regionalization of dispatch services. And three, the purchase of an ambulance by the town of Pepperell. Okay, the special town meeting, they've got the signatures. Town meeting has to be held when in the time available. I believe the special town meeting has already been set up at June 19th.
I think that is the date that we've been talking about, based
All right,
on the
okay.
number of days from.
Correct. It's 21 days.
certification of the
It's no
signatures.
sooner than 21 days or more than what, 45?
I think Jim certified them Thursday or
Right,
Thursday.
okay, from the date of certification.
Thursday or Thursday.
Now, here's the thing, depending on when you set that up, you know, you have to take in articles that are filed up to 30 days before that special town meeting. Now, if that June 19th day was the operative day, the 30 days would run out on Saturday, okay? So the 30 days to get the articles in would be, and the time to do that would be 5/22, May 22nd. You know, but you know the selectmen can always leave the warrant open, you know, for a few more days should they choose to do so, as long as you don't run up against the publication requirement. Okay, so the thing I'm saying is, you read this, and if this was put as an article before a town meeting, they're not actionable. They're not phrased right. They have to be rewritten, you know, in such a way that they're votable. Let's put it that way. And I dealt with both of these articles. The first article is to discuss the regionalization of dispatch services. The town meeting does not have the authority to supersede the legislature, okay? The legislature created a system whereby you can adopt regionalization with the selectmen. Town meeting can't rescind that. Now, town meeting could give a sense of town meeting, you know, vote to an article saying we strongly oppose the regionalization or something to that effect. But I don't believe you have the authority to rescind, you know, as an action by the statutory awarding authority, the statutory contracting authority, which is the selectmen. The last one is the purchase of the ambulance. If the article is properly phrased, okay, that could be before town meeting. Would go to the same as any other financially based article. Would go to FinCom, and then it would go to town meeting, you know, after they get FinCom report. I will point out a couple of things. When you have citizens petitions, I'm assuming for the moment that there'll be 2 citizens articles, each of which will have 100 signatures, you know, judging from the rapidity which the 300 and some signatures were gotten on the petition for the special town meeting, you know. The second one, the ambulance issue, which could be voted, you know, if it's properly written, generally you have to identify a source of funds, et cetera. You know what I mean? The charter is very interesting. With the exception of citizens petitions and ongoing union negotiations, any proposed warrant article requesting expenditure of town funds shall include an estimated cost. Warrant articles requesting expenditure of town funds that do not include estimated cost shall be rejected by the Board of Selectmen. The exception is citizens petitions. If the DPW came in with an article, you know, and didn't identify a source of funds, or didn't give you didn't cost it out, you could reject it. But you can't do that with a citizen's petition.
The logic makes sense, though.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, by the way, that particular provision in Massachusetts law goes back to the days before the British left. You know, I believe it was 1754. The time somebody must have turned down some articles back then. I actually had to dig it out one time. What it is citizens petitions cannot be refused by the selectmen. All right. Now, again, the other thing it says, with the exception of citizens petitions, all proposed warrant articles shall be subject to review by town council. Any proposed article deemed to be illegal by town council shall be rejected by the Board of Selectmen. Again, except the citizen petitions. I can't say no, you know. So, but I will tell you that the article, that the purported article as written is, in any way you cut it, is basically unvotable. I mean, you don't, you know, what are you buying for how much, you know, and what's your source of funding, you know? But I leave that up to the people who want to draft the 1 or 2 articles they wish to put in on the warrant. There's no question you're going to have a special town meeting, all right? The only issue is, you know, when are you going to close the warrant? You can't, if you were going to hold the meeting on June 19th, the warrant is going to stay open to the next business day after the weekend, which would be next Monday.
22nd.
Yeah, yeah. So that's basically what it is. I mean, but this is unvotable. I mean, the moderator would have to rule it out of order.
I don't think that it was meant to be a votable.
Wait. We're gonna go in. No, wait. We're gonna go in order. I promise. I will open up for questions.
No. Just a clarification. Carolyn Adab, 19 Deerfield Drive. I think one of those petitions said either revert the regionalization decision, or it said reverse or rescind the regionalization decision.
Well, you can't rescind the decision. You don't have the
No,
authority.
just, again, thank you, I was just asking. I thought that's what one said, 'cause
No.
I thought that's what I said.
It looked like someone had typed one, and then someone had copied the same thing handwritten. I'm not 100% sure what was circulated in terms of what people signed. But I agree with Ned, I've read the regulations, but in the general sense, I would not have assumed that a citizen's petition would have been as detailed as something that a department head would have put together. They, do this year to year, month, twice a year at least for fall town meetings, spring town meetings. So I wouldn't penalize anybody in the sense that it's a little light on language. We can work with that. Part of what we'll discuss tonight is our own putting of a potential warrant.
What I was trying to get at was, it should be, number one, that there will be a town meeting pursuant to the citizens petition.
Correct.
It accomplished
That's
that
correct.
task. Number two, it basically told you why they filed the citizens petition, all right?
Which we get.
But you didn't get to number three, which was drafting the articles in some votable format. And at the very, very least, they have a week to get the articles in a reasonable format. I would suggest that anybody consult the last couple of town meeting warrants to see what the wording is and how it's done. And, but I can tell you that I can't say one way or the other, and the selectmen can't refuse it.
I think that in the general sense, I will open it up, I promise, to questions.
Yeah, we pay 'em.
We will have a town meeting. I think the thought process behind potentially June 19th was to do it before school ended, while people were still here, not on vacation. Again, if you want to give something the best chance of success, you do it when people are here, when they're paying attention, when they will come out. And so, at the same time, part of what we will do tonight is open up the option for people to submit warrants, if they have a proposed warrant. There'll be something that we'll talk about tonight as well. And if citizens want to submit their own warrant, you can do that, but it has to meet the very specific requirements of the regulations relative to what it is, what it says, what it asks for, where the funding comes from, all of that good stuff. So before we open it up to questions out here, I want to give the board an opportunity to speak on the particular issue. Roland, go ahead.
Well, I'm looking through the petitions, and you've got what seems to be several petitions that are worded differently. We've kind of just lumped them all together, which is fine, because the intent is all the same. They've done their due diligence, so we've got enough people to do it. Other than looking at what are those petitions going, back to Ned's point, what are the petitions, or what are those articles actually going to be, which I think we have drafted something we think we can use. No, the three we're going to put on are just for the school, right?
Yes.
That's for
That's for a different thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
By the way, nothing says you can't put in other warrant articles for the special town meeting.
We know that.
We don't wanna
That's
spend-
where we'll
we
go
don't-
next.
yeah, we don't wanna
We're
spend more
one
money.
step at a
That's right.
time, so.
I'm fine with that.
With all due respect, because I was one of the writers of the petition, may I make a statement? Because there are a few versions of the petition. My name is Crystal Jeffries on Field Street. The specific, and I know you're clumping them together and they're all in the same spirit.
Right.
But the primary petition states to hold a special town meeting to see if the town of Pepperell will vote to revert the decision of the Board of, I know, but I'm not finished with my statement.
That's not what these say.
Okay, then I don't know where it went, because that was the primary petition. To vote to revert the decision made by the Board of Selectmen to regionalize dispatch and to make a purchase from free cash for the purchase of an ambulance for the
So-
town of Pepperell.
For whatever reason, that particular document either didn't get circulated or submitted. If for whatever reason there's another piece of paper floating around somewhere, but we have all of them here.
you submit it?
And that is not what the ones that we received say.
Well, whatever the petition said, they are all pretty much uniform requesting the special town meeting.
Right.
The special town meeting will be held.
Right.
Okay?
Correct.
As to the verbiage to be used in the articles, that warrant can't be closed
You can use that
Well,
in
at
the
the
articles.
very earliest, next Monday, so the articles have to be written up, and each article has to have 100 signatures.
Hang on, Toby, I will get to you, I promise. So just because this is my first meeting as a chair and the special town meeting hasn't come up, in terms of the different steps to the process, so step one being the meeting itself, so let's start here. I assume that you need some kind of a vote from us setting a date. I asked that as a quasi question mark at the end. And I also assume that you need something from us to open the warrant for submissions with a deadline, again with a little question mark at the end, before we get into content.
Yes.
Okay, so it may make sense to do this step by step. I think it'll be easier. So the first thing that I want to deal with is just the actual having of a special town meeting. The having one and the potential date of June 19th.
To set the date of June 19th?
That's right.
Yep.
And to open the warrants. Are there any questions specifically on that before we get to warrant detail on the having of a meeting and the date? Toby, did you have a question on that or different part? Okay.
Yeah, mine's on the article also.
Okay. Do you have any?
Is that enough time?
Hang on, let me ask Lisa, because she didn't get a chance to wait. Do you have a question on that particular piece of it, the date or the having of a meeting part?
Well, how did the date get established? I wasn't involved.
It's a projected date thrown out there. So do you have a different date you'd like to throw out?
No, I just didn't know where the date came from.
Just a selected date. We have to count.
I'm assuming it's a Monday.
It is
I think we counted. It had to be
right.
within.
It's got to be so many days from when the signatures are certified, and the goal was to have it before school ended.
No
So
sooner-
you counted.
No sooner than 21 days.
That's right, and no later than 45 days. Go ahead.
And now I do have a question on that. If you vote tonight for the 19th of June to be our town meeting, that's only gonna give the public 5-6 days to get a petition written with the proper language and get 100 signatures turned back in by Monday.
If you want to have your own warrant article. So again, when we
Well,
get
I
into
mean, I think
the next the next
But I
category.
was going back to Lisa's point, is that gonna be enough time for the citizens to actually have an amount of time to put this on? You guys be able to say, hey, we're gonna open the warrants. If you don't have it in by Monday, we're done. You had nothing on the warrant, have a nice day.
Closed Friday.
You're closed Friday too.
And it's closed on Friday, so they
Hang
can't
on,
vote.
let me
Signatures on each article.
hang on. Let me have Ned clarify because I'm not 100% sure that's what he said. So.
What's that?
I think that's what he said.
So if they want to submit their own article versus the selectmen proposing their own article, I think what Jason is trying to confirm is, do they need to have a petition for that particular article of
They
100
have to submit
signatures?
the warrant article yeah, again, it's a petition article.
Okay, so if we picked it, again, I'm just asking
100
a
signatures,
question.
not 200.
If we picked a different date, so let's say instead of it being the 19th, it was the week after when school actually ends.
Right.
You got these over a weekend, so.
Well, no, just, I'm asking, just asking the
You
question.
should be able to do it, Jason.
If,
I wasn't wrong, mine wasn't on that one.
Then
so what does that do with the warrant deadline?
well,
Does
see,
it change
the
it at all?
The selectmen have a certain amount of flexibility in keeping the warrant open. I mean, the only thing you're up against is the actual mechanics of getting it published and all of that.
Peggy,
It's
what's our
couple-
publication deadline?
I think on a special town meeting, it's
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Yeah,
14 days.
see, that's it.
14 days.
Okay.
14 days.
So if we, as part of our discussion on the date, and again, this is why I'm taking it step by step, that is something that we can discuss about whether or not we extend the time period. Is there a maximum period of time? You say flexibility, but does that flexibility have a cap?
No, the publication deadline.
That's the cap.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is
So
if,
if we have the town meeting on the 19th,
Yeah.
we have to post the warrant by the 5th,
right, okay.
or is it the 2nd?
The second you're closed, so.
Yeah, you have to, I think you would have to do it,
2nd of June.
Friday, you guys are closed.
that's cutting it thin.
But we could post it on the 5th.
Yeah, you could do that, you could do that, but the other thing too is,
But you also have
if
to
you
build
could-
in time for us to get it, to certify the signatures. You can't just drop it off at the last
Right,
second. But we could,
You're cutting us short
there's
by saying a
potential
week.
flexibility later in this month.
no, if you,
General
if you, well, if you, for instance, you had the
holiday.
following week, you know, And that would carry the signature deadline day to the weekend of Memorial Day. So the day after Memorial Day would be when the time runs out, which would be 2 weeks. Well,
Yeah, 30th would be a better day.
Yeah, 2 weeks. You know, so that, you know, if the 26th of June is your special town meeting,
I'll be right out front.
the warrant would close 30 days, you know, prior, you'd have to accept all the 30 days prior to that special town meeting.
Right.
But since town hall is closed on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday for Memorial Day weekend, it carries over the following Tuesday.
Right, which is the 30th.
So if,
Right.
for clarification, if we closed it on the 30th, would that be able to allow us to have the town meeting on the 19th?
Yes, because Peggy counted back
Yeah.
from there.
Yeah.
Yes.
You could do it.
Why don't we go for the 30th?
Yeah, you could do it.
We get plenty of things done.
So,
The 30th
Go
of
ahead.
May. That would give us,
Wait, hang on, let her answer
So
then.
Jeffrey's Healed Street, just so I'm following correctly, this is if we want to write the article
No.
rather than you proposing one?
It's two things. It's one, picking a meeting date. And it's two, a deadline for submission of warrant articles.
Right.
Doesn't matter who writes it, it's a submission, whether we submit it, whether the town submits it,
Okay.
residents, it's
If you
a
submit it-
submission.
If the Board of Selectmen submits it, do we need signatures?
No.
Nope.
If we like how you write it?
Correct.
Okay.
All right, do either Roland or Lisa, do you have any questions, comments on the meeting date and extending the warrant deadline to, in essence, the 30th of May?
All set.
All right, then, do we have a motion for
I
those
move that
two?
we set a special town meeting date of June 30th with a deadline for submissions of articles to
June
be.
30th.
June
I
30th?
mean, June 19th with the, I got the 30th in the wrong place. June 19th with a deadline for submissions of articles to be May 30th. No later than May 30th.
No later than May 30th.
Do I have a second?
what time on May 30th?
What time does
Business.
close the business?
30.
Peggy, do you know what time town hall
What day of
closes
the
on
week
it?
is that?
It's Tuesday.
4:30.
4:30.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so it's unanimous for the meeting date of June 19th and extending the warrant deadline to May 30th. All right. Step one. All right, so step two is an actual warrant discussion. Mark, do you want to weigh in to start?
Sure.
Want these hard copies?
We have hard copies for the board and anybody who,
I have
What's
I
ours?
have mine, because I'm high maintenance.
okay, Lisa's. Yep. So Peggy, Peggy and,
No, I'm sorry, I don't.
Here, Toby, I can share. You want mine?
Oh, wait, I'll give you Melissa's.
Like I said, I'm high maintenance. I had to get my own extra specific copy.
Peggy and I took a look at drafting a proposed warrant article that would allow the question of the ambulance to go on to the scheduled, depending on the Board of Selectmen, June 12th election. So the town would not incur additional cost to have a special election if in fact it came up to be that if we had to go that route. So the proposed warrant article would allow voters, it would go to the ballot for the proposed Bottom Brook, Squanicook, and Hawthorne Brook School projects, which was approved by the Mass School Building Authority, to allow voters to take an action to exempt from the provisions of Proposition 2.5, the so-called issue for the purchase of a new ambulance and payment thereof. And so that would be one of the quickest routes, if in fact the ambulance is being looked at.
So I know that there have been different things going around town. There had been a press release at one point about information if this were held at the fall town meeting, so I just want to clarify. We have more options in fall town meeting than we do right now in June. Our books won't close until after June 30th. Our free cash won't be certified until generally late August, sometime in September. And so we also have a project that was supposed to be on Springtown meeting, but it didn't come to fruition and is now on for Fall Town meeting that has 70,000 coming to the town that has to be used for capital purchases that, again, if this were at the Fall Town meeting, could be used. So we have more options in general in a Fall Town meeting than we do now that we voted the budget. And so there were some questions about why the press release said Fall Town meeting and pulling from free cash versus the suggestion of doing a debt exclusion for this particular item. I know that, Toby, I'm going to have you weigh in on the amount. I know that you did some research relative to the cost of an ambulance. Can you tell us what you're looking at as a total cost?
289, 592, Chief.
Ballpark, you're good. You're in there. And we know from having our assessor run some numbers for us that a debt exclusion for that would cost about $8.40 a year for a house worth $300,000. If the ambulance comes in less, obviously we spend less. I think the intent is to get a quote that is the maximum the cost could be versus, I know that there are multiple companies, Chief, that you can go through, and they have, as my understanding is, do they have models that are available if we were to do this now in terms of?
Not all of them, no.
Okay, the one that gave us the quote, did they have models available?
Mark talked to them, so.
Yes, we talked to them together, Chief, if you recall.
And they have,
So-
they have,
Yes, so Greenwood does
model
have, but we do want to get other quotations so that we know that the number is accurate to what the chief's specifications are.
Do
And
you have a written spec for this ambulance?
No,
Which
we
you're,
need to sit down with a,
shouldn't that come first before we go out and start looking at prices? Because if you don't, I mean, because I'm looking at our capital fund and saying, okay, if we're getting a new ambulance, then why do we need to spend, $55,000 to replace the power loading system? Won't that be included? Why?
right, that would be included
Okay,
in
in
the
the
price
tough
of.
books, wouldn't one of those be included? Do we know what the chassis is? Do you know what you have for a power plant?
Are you done? Okay.
Um,
Yeah, we were looking for, to replace our A2 ambulance, which has over 170-something thousand miles on it. It's a four-wheel drive ambulance. Our other one is not, so we're looking for an F-550 four-wheel drive ambulance.
And do you have your full list of what you want
Yes.
loaded up with? Good.
do we?
And this 289 is gonna cover all that?
Correct.
So we won't have some of these expenditures that are on the capital improvement.
Right, that includes all of that.
That includes all of what? Okay.
That price includes the power load system and the
Good.
cot.
And the new
the-
tough book for that particular ambulance? No?
No, I don't believe so. That was the
The
Wi-Fi
tough
system.
book is separate, yeah. that's
Wi-Fi,
separate.
Wi-Fi's on there, yeah.
1100.
Okay. So these items would then come off of the capital plan?
Correct.
Okay.
Roland, what year
It
are
also,
those in?
excuse me, it also includes,
I'm sorry, I just want to figure out what year those were in, I'm sorry.
2018 is for some of these.
Are these in the actual,
This was in the
Mark,
budget.
in are some of these in there? Do we have the ability to appropriate those towards the ambulance?
Yes, you can.
Okay, so, go ahead, Toby.
that does include a trade-in of the 2005 towards that.
The 289 and change. Okay.
Good.
Okay. So we do have the ability to appropriate some of the expenses that are on the pre-approved capital plan already. So that would help defray the cost in some capacity, which is great.
It's mandatory on the ambulance because we've waited so long, so.
And
Don't understand.
to your point, Melissa, the $70,000 that we would get that has to be used for capital projects would further buy down the cost. So,
So procedurally, my question is, sorry to bore you all with my procedural questions. So can we use that now or allocate that now, even if it's verbiage to allocate it, even though the article for the sale of that real estate won't be on until fall town meeting? So I guess my question is, what happens if that fails? One would hope it wouldn't, but what happens if it does and then we don't get that 70,000?
you'd be correct to wait until the fall.
Just wanted to make sure.
No.
I don't want to be overly optimistic and reduce again further the amount by 70 and then have the article fail and then again here we are. I tend to be a little conservative when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Right.
So, but But how much, Toby, can you tell me roughly about how much is on here? Just in terms of the,
Chief, I think it was like 234 for the.
232,597 was what was on the capital layout.
was the total, right?
Okay, and then,
So is that 55, 56?
is that would be thrown on, because that was for the 2005, correct? The new cot with the lift?
No.
Replacement cot and
That would
power
go on the
load
new
system?
one.
Yeah, right.
So
that's-
we'd
right.
still need to purchase that?
Yes.
Okay, good. I don't want to, so is that 55 and change part of the 289, or will we still spend that on
No,
top?
That's still in there.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so that's almost 56. Awesome. All right, that's the only real big one that I see.
Yeah, that was the big one.
There's, there's a, so you,
The Wi-Fi is
Chief,
saying
you
that's
said the
in it too.
Wi-Fi is separate, or that's
No,
in
the
there?
Wi-Fi needs to be added to that.
It's 1,100.
Yes, it's 1,100,
Which is-
so that's
what's
small.
gonna
I know
bring
that,
you
I
up
know
to
that
this
town
number.
is.
Yeah, that's gonna bring you up to that number.
We have an article on, that was at the town meeting, I believe, capital item for that.
So that's helpful, in the sense it brings it down by about 55 and change, which is,
So one last question, because our other one is what, 2010?
Correct.
yes.
So here we are, it's been 12 years, so should we be looking out at basically 2022 for the next one?
No, 2020.
2020, and it's,
Usually every 10 years, we try and replace
Right.
it.
okay, it's
Right.
currently not on that list.
The, in all fairness, Chief had it on for the override capital plan. There were a lot of capital items for the different departments that they had on there, and this was one of his that was on there in that regard. So the intent had been to replace it at
Every
the
10 years.
10-year mark.
10 years back.
Actually, we tried to replace this one a year early because we had such trouble with it.
All right.
250.
Lisa, do you have any questions about the cost of the ambulance or
Is
anything like
this,
that?
is this for the special town election or for the special town meeting?
Special town meeting, wouldn't it?
In theory, it would be both. There's different things on here, so.
We want to have it on the election first.
So if
Do that.
we do it as a debt exclusion, all or in part. Obviously, whatever we can pull from the capital, it would be silly to include that officially in a debt exclusion. We would be able to deal with that coming right off the top. But if we do even $1 of it as a debt exclusion, we do have the ability, even though it's out of the usual order, to actually use the June 12th special town meeting to our or special election. I did that like 3 times on Facebook. To do that, to actually use it to our advantage, so we don't have to pay for a separate town
So we
election.
could vote to say something like,
Yes,
approve that town meeting.
and then
next
have
week.
the town meeting afterwards. You could do it. You can do it in reverse. I believe it has been done in the past. I don't have a specific recollection of it being done in the past, but we did consult with Department of Revenue, who confirmed that you can. I know Ned looked into it as well, that confirmed that we can do it in that order. It makes sense in the general sense that if there is going to be, again, even a penny of it that might have to be a debt exclusion, why have a separate election? And again, you start to move, if we did it in the reverse, if we had the town meeting first, and again, you have that 21 to 45 day window in which we have to have the special town meeting. If you were to have the election afterwards, you would run into the summertime.
Right.
And historically, getting turnout for those kinds of things is always just a challenge, because people are just out of here in the general sense. So while school is still in session, at least you have a captive audience at your disposal, and the hope that people will come out and do their civic duty one way or the other. So, do I have any?
I do have one more.
Yes, please, go
Didn't
ahead.
we have one of our ambulances come off the debt exclusion? So it'd kind of be like just putting another one
Yeah,
on,
it's,
right?
it's,
So it's not
yeah,
gonna-
yeah. So again, there's
I
no
think it
double
is
dipping in the
retired,
general
yeah.
sense. Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
I think that's a
To the,
important
to the
note.
proposed ballot question, don't we have to, at least, we gotta have some kind of amount of money that they're asking people to authorize?
It would be the maximum, in essence, of what the,
So
the
we would,
quote
we,
is.
so the proposed ballot question is gonna be for $289,000.
And change, whatever the
Yes.
specific amount is that is rare.
Because it's not on that.
That was from bond council.
All right, Mark, can you give me the exact amount again?
$289,592.
$592. And any pennies? Do they round, do you just round up?
That's it.
It's very convenient the way that she's.
And a vote.
Does anyone else have any questions about just the process, the amount, anything in those regards? Crystal, did you stick your hand up?
Actually, he can go first.
Okay, go ahead.
Grover Pillsbury, 18 Maple Street, Lot 58. I believe at town meeting, and it was correct to do it in that manner, but somehow it was squashed by our town leadership. But there was a motion to use free cash for the ambulance, and I don't know why that didn't go through, because that forum was the place to do that motion. The other thing is that I might be getting off topic, but the ambulance, I believe, should be purchased with free cash. And while listening at that meeting, it appears that our security in this town is based on our bond rating more than anything else. But the ambulance should be purchased with free cash, and that this board should appoint a debt exclusion to purchase a ladder truck. You're playing with fire. We're getting a ladder truck from another town. We certainly have the free cash as it was appointed at town meeting. There's $1 million, and the ambulance should be bought with that free cash, and a debt exclusion should be done to replace the ladder truck, so that we have safety in this town.
So before I let Ned
versus a
answer your
bond
question.
rating, because
Well, first of all, the motion on before town meeting was out of order, okay? It could have been done in a way by moving money from, because the question was before the town meeting at the time was the capital budget there. It could have been done to move from free cash to capital budget, but unfortunately, the way the motion came up, number one, the motion as stated was tantamount to having a brand-new article that had never been on the warrant.
There's
It
no
would have been no good.
publication, right.
It was no good, But it could have been rephrased, but it's not the job of the moderator or anybody else here to rephrase the motions for people so they get by. But what could have been done is transfer from free cash to capital and then rephrase the motion. But that's not what was presented at town meeting. At town meeting, that was presented at town meeting was a motion to basically approve an ambulance.
I'm gonna let Chief Tyler go because he had his hand up first.
That's fine.
But then you're next.
That's
Go
probably better
ahead.
than Chief
So
Fisher.
we have the June 12th.
That's
June
not,
10th.
for the schools at the
Okay,
moment.
and so it will be on that.
Right.
If it doesn't pass, then what happens?
So then it would go on for the fall. There's a window of time in which once something goes on, regardless, whether it's at a town meeting, and an election, whatever order, once it goes on, if it fails, we have a period of time that we have to wait. That would put us into the fall town meeting. So that would give us another chance in a somewhat short period of time, but there is somewhat of a risk doing it now versus waiting until fall town meeting. Yeah, Jason
So the
was- Go ahead, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
So the article couldn't be changed then to take it from free cash at town meeting, the special town meeting?
Well, if
If
it's
someone-
defeated at the town meeting, you would, to your point earlier, the citizenry basically would say, they're not looking for an ambulance.
Yeah.
So then to go to town meeting and say, well, we're gonna disregard the election of this item, and now just spend $289,000 anyways, would be,
You guys did it with it.
Jason
So,
was next, sorry.
I guess just for some clarification from council, I respect you're a lawyer, you went to school many years to do this. For the most part, this is a farm community. Some are educated, some are not. You expect us to be able to go up there at town meeting and know exact quorum? We can't get any advice from leadership that's up and on that stage to say, if you word it in a different way?
No.
I mean, we're not lawyers.
I don't run the town meeting.
I understand you don't, but you just said that,
No, look,
you basically just called
yeah,
us dumb, saying we
the
didn't know
town-
how to write an
I got
article.
that, I got
He
that from
didn't,
the
and
town
we're,
council.
and now we're moving off of professionalism.
That's
He
right.
did
I mean-
not, he did not.
Look, the problem is, it came out on the floor, it was not on the warrant, okay?
I understand
And
that.
what we, and it was out of order, you know, it maybe could have been tinkered with and things like that. But, you know, on the middle of it, on an article before a town meeting, you gotta sit there and basically rewrite it for the citizen?
You just said we could have taken with it. You just said it right there. If it was,
It could have been, it could have been.
if there was grounds that we could have
But what
tried to do
What was
that.
presented was they were going for free cash to buy an ambulance, and, you know, it was out of order. It was out of order. It was no good, you know?
Let's stick with what we're doing now. Let's not go back and rehash something.
We're here, let's
before. Let's try to move it forward.
I'd like to move forward.
Go ahead, Chris.
Okay, Crystal Jeffries, Field Street. Moving forward, my question is, can we have, like, is it called a warrant on the ballot?
Well, it's a ballot question on the ballot, warrant article, town meeting, but we'll just go with it. So it's
State.
warrant.
Can you, can you have it part free cash and a percentage debt exclusion? So we're not doing 100% debt exclusion?
Well, as it is right now, if there is some money already in our budget that's allocated for expenses that would go on the existing ambulance, which right now it looks like there's almost $57,000
Right.
in the existing budget, that would be
Bring the number down.
included in this cost. So that'll automatically bring it down.
So that would be great. Then, my question is, so we have a nice middle ground, so you can get your bond rating. Our town can get the bond rating. Is there a threshold, a certain amount of free cash that we can use to put towards the ambulance that will not be detrimental to the bond rating?
So you're asking what the sweet spot is. There
Yes.
probably is. The question is whether or not we can tell you that right at this second.
I know you can't.
Can you write the article to say that, to use a combination of free cash and
That'll be in the
exclusion?
motion.
So that can be written like that?
So yes,
All right.
we can.
We're talking about.
And frankly, doing it that way gives everybody
Flexibility.
flexibility in the general
We have
sense.
say in how the article's written. We, the public.
If you want to write it.
Right.
Oh, just
If-
you
He's
guys give
giving us
us
input.
If we write one,
We're saying
then
we could probably take it off, take it and put it together. So.
But I'm just saying, when you guys, because you're gonna make that motion tonight, correct? Oh, you're gonna
that's
make.
the hope anyway.
Okay, so we can tweak what you say possibly?
You can't tweak it through us, but if you didn't like it and you wanted to submit your own between now and May 30th, you could submit a different
Article.
and get your signatures.
Right.
I'm gonna get this gentleman hand his hand up. You already spoke. I'll get back to you. Go ahead.
Dave Lavender,
Thank
19
you.
Deerfield Drive. I heard you saying that if it was voted down at the election, we were saying that we didn't want an ambulance. I'm getting the feeling from some people they'd like to have the choice between a debt exclusion or free cash. They weren't saying necessarily no, that we don't want an ambulance, they're just saying no, we don't want a debt exclusion.
I don't think we misunderstood you. I think that.
Then maybe I misunderstood.
No, I think
What
the
I'm saying,
difficulty
if
is
we
that.
put $289,000 on there for debt exclusion, and it overwhelmingly was defeated, then we're gonna go to town meeting. Well, first of all, from what Melissa's saying, we couldn't take it to town meeting and talk about it on the 19th. We'd have to wait till the fall, is that correct?
We can still have the town meeting, but in essence, it won't do much because the debt exclusion component failed. I think part of the difficulty is that if there's a really low turnout at the election, then it makes it gray. If there's a huge turnout at the election and it goes one way or the other, it becomes less gray in the set. So again, I'm not sure how many people are here tonight. There's maybe, 40 people in here? God, sorry, my math skills are off in terms of visual acuity. And there's some in the hallway, there's some in the other room. Again, we're a town of 12,000 people. We have 7,000 registered voters. There's maybe 0.25% that's here tonight. And I am assuming that most of the people here, since I haven't heard any negative comments yet about having an ambulance, are probably for having a new ambulance. But there are a lot of people who aren't here who may or may not agree. Crystal, the woman next to you, and then I will get you, and Phil as well.
Sharon Mercurio,
I won't
Boynton
forget you, I
Street.
promise.
No offense, but I don't trust you. Because now it just seems like it's fancy footwork. We were talking petition to use free cash at a town meeting. Now we're doing the debt exclusion first. I don't know how you folks feel, but I would like to stick with free cash at town meeting.
I can't help how the petition was written. I can't.
There isn't
No,
one
but
of
you're
these that
trying
say
to
that.
change it, it feels like.
But but the ones that were submitted to the town for submission, for verification, not one of them says that. So again, we didn't have a part in the signing or submission. We can't control that. Crystal, let me get Phil and then I will get you.
According to what the lawyer said, you can write a petition to take the free cash and put it into the working fund and take the money and buy an ambulance.
So, right, so if the citizens want to write their own warrant, get their signatures, absolutely, you can submit your own.
With 100 signatures,
That's
you
right.
can take it out of free cash.
You just have to make sure it meets all of the requirements.
With
in the
requirements.
general
100
assessment.
signatures, you would then have it on the warrant.
That's right.
For vote. Take it out of free cash.
So it has
If it goes to town meeting vote, that's the petition that we would be voting on at the town meeting to whatever that petition's written. If it's all to take it out of free cash, then that's how it's going to stand at town meeting.
If you're not sure how to write one, there are two ways that you can do it that are probably the easiest. One is to ask a department head outside of the scope of their employment day who's written one, or two, look at the prior warrant articles that have been published that deal with pulling from free cash that have been submitted by either the selectmen or the town department and such. Again, it gives a prototype if that's what people want to do.
As a template would be helpful.
Crystal?
Oh, yes, again, with all due respect, Mr. Andrews, because you're our town administrator and you are the man when it comes to numbers, I would like to request your input on what that threshold of free cash is that we can use, that we can allocate for the purchase of the ambulance, so that we have that sweet spot and we don't bring down our town bond rating. We're all a team.
It's a very good question, and I try to answer this at town meeting, and I'll give it my best shot.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's difficult to know what's going through the bond rating process, how it plays through, and I can say that in my 3.5 decades, that this is a very, very difficult question to answer, but it goes something like this. And Melissa's point earlier, because I think we all heard it, I know I've lived this and heard this, if you can make sure that you have certified free cash sometime in August and September, and we've got a marvelous town accountant, she does a great job for us, Lori Belosovich, that's the normal process by which you then say, oh, look, we can put this money towards a larger capital purchase. Because the capital budget for the town has already been approved at town meeting. It was in the budget at $235,000. So what would be a signal, in my estimation, professionally, my own opinion, to the bond rating agency is to let that process play through. That's why I put the press release out. That's why I asked the chief to work with me on the spec for the type of four-wheel drive equipment that he's looking for. And in my humble opinion, and we found at least one deal of the dealerships that have these vehicles, at least the majority of the purchase on the lot. They'll work with us. So it's not like you have to wait an inordinate amount of time. There's going to be some retrofit. I'm going to leave that to the chief. That's his bailiwick. I'll let him just ferret that out, and I'll support him in any way that I can. That's the normal process, where you then take the ratings call. And let me tell you, folks, it's been a long haul. When I arrived in December of 2014, I think free cash was somewhere in the $300,000 or $400,000 range. We've been over $2 million. And that's a testament to a lot of department heads' hard work, from town clerk to the town accountant, and all the people that are involved in the process, the treasurer collector, and other people who have really put us in a fine position to at least be discussing this today, because you wouldn't be spending $300,000 of free cash and spending it down to zero. You're not going to prevail at bond rating phone call under the circumstances. So let me just finish. One of the reasons why I'm sitting here is because of that background in finance, and I give it my heart and soul. And I think it's important for people to understand that we have to continuously improve our position. And it meant some pain for a lot of people. And a lot of department heads worked very hard to get us to the position that we're in today. Why is that important? If you move the bond rating up, as I've indicated, because we were at AA2 at one point, with AA3 at the moment. And the reason why we wound up at AA3, just from a historical perspective, is that we had a lot of money in reserve, and it was not used in a way that the bond rating agency thought that it probably should have been used. So part of my job, foremost, is to make sure that we move that forward and do the appropriate planning for the ambulance. I'm committed, I'll work with Chief and make sure we move it along. I think there are multiple options here, and I think the board should explore all of them. But I think the idea to have certified free cash, say to the world, we know that we, just picked up several $100,000 more, whatever it might be, have that certified by the Department of Revenue, and then bring it and put it on the fall town meeting agenda, would be my opinion.
Thank you, sir. I have a follow-up question.
Sure.
Mr. Andrews, so just so that we're clear, and so I understand.
Sure.
Because I do take great interest in this topic, and that's why I'm here tonight, like everybody else.
Sure.
Is it that it's not necessarily an amount taken from free cash to help our bond rating, but instead the action of just taking it?
Well,
so in other words, it doesn't matter how much
So
we
the-
were to use?
Good point.
Because my question was, what
Good point.
percentage could we take and not affect the bond rating?
Well, it's not a science. You can't put your finger right on it, it's not a
It's
formula.
just the action.
It's the action, it's the way we conduct our business. We have had 3 budgets that have been approved, that have been balanced. We've had 2 independent financial audits that have been sterling, they've been absolutely fantastic. So it's a bunch of different litmus tests through the process. Can't point to just one particular thing.
And so there's not a ratio?
There's not.
bond raters-
We're looking at multiple items on a radar screen, and this is one big one of them.
So it would be really great if there was in that regard in terms of some kind of a ratio percentage or other. But what we've found in the last several years where we've been able to increase, our bond rating is that it's not just the amount of money that we have in the bank, it's the financial team in place, it's the way that decisions are made, it's the thought process behind the decisions. And so there's a lot of subjective factors that go into it as well as just the hard number component. And that's the part that they don't share so much with us in terms of how much weight they give to those. But at the end of the day, Pepperell has been doing better fiscally. We are moving forward in a positive front fiscally. The goal is to not go backwards. And so in terms of putting anything out there, whether it's an ambulance, whether it's a ladder truck, whether it's a building, whatever it may be, the goal is to make sure it has sound logic behind it so that even if we took it all from free cash or we did a debt exclusion, regardless of what end we go, if they see that we have a thought out process going into it, that can impact it as much as the money that's pulled out of free cash.
What would happen if both ambulances just broke tomorrow? What would we do?
So in that case, so one, we have mutual aid in terms of emergency situations, but if, God forbid, something like that happened, it puts us in a very different position at that point. Then you're operating on an emergency level versus a planning level. And so you have different requirements when you're operating in that front.
But I think that's,
Understood.
I think that's a good point. I mean, we've got 2 ambulances now. Chief, how many days have our ambulances been out of service this year?
This year? A lot. I wish I knew you were gonna ask that question, but
You're the
we had
department
full.
head, you should know this stuff.
Oh.
Who's the managed department, how many days? You've been talking about this
Yes, you
ambulance
guys
month.
stuffing it up now.
Toby, can you give like a percentage roughly? I know that
And how
not
many
all that is.
3%, 10%, 5%?
So far this year, A2 has probably been down,
Is that the 2005?
that's 2005. I would say 12 days, at least. A1 has been down for 4.
So like
So
16 days
The
so far.
2010 one, what was that one down for?
AC problem. They had to wait for a compressor to come in.
And that's this year?
That's this year.
Yes, that's this year.
I know the other one had
And
more advanced
Yeah, the other-
problems.
Assuming it's getting progressively worse, right?
I'm sorry?
I'm assuming we're getting progressively worse, so if we look at 2016, over the course of that year, on average, what were we down? It had to be quite a few days.
Oh, quite a few days. That's when the rear end flew out of A2.
When
and that was
guys are
down for
running to a
months.
call rather than driving.
So your 12 days, is that 2017 or
Yes.
fiscal year?
No, just this year so far.
Okay.
so far.
Just the point of order, though, if you can bounce off the chief, it's not so much the downtime, because we have either a good mechanic in town that's helped us out, or we've had good companies that could get us back up and running.
Yeah.
So it's not so much a downtime, it's also, what has the cost been to repair that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
goes
yeah,
into the
yeah.
amount.
You're looking, you're asking them for days that it's been down, but
Absolutely.
let's be realistic, how much is it costing? You pay more to get it done faster.
Understood.
So.
You have to have metrics in order to kind of understand
Right.
where we're going, okay? It could
Right.
be down, as an example, the compressor
It
was
could be down
down
a
4
week, but it
days.
costs us $100,000 to fix it.
But, right,
So,
We're not disagreeing with you in that
well, I mean,
regard.
he's putting a point back onto him that's kind of like,
Mark, you said you wanted
You
to.
really
Well, I
need to
just, I
ask
just
the
want the,
candidate.
the listening public and the folks in the room to understand that whenever we had those challenging circumstances, it was either, God bless, Bill. It was either, which was just mentioned, our fine staff working, or the town administration, Board of Selectmen stepped up and made sure we got the monies to get the repair done quickly. You know, and so, just so people understand, it wasn't sitting in some bay somewhere, waiting for some extra special attention. We took a proactive approach to it. Chief came and talked with me, found the funds, made sure that the repairs were done properly.
Are there any new questions? Go
Just
ahead.
one point, the town mechanic's keeping his fingers crossed that the front end stays into it. So someday there's gonna be a major accident with it. Just so you know.
We're not opposed to having a new ambulance. We get it.
I'm just trying to build the metrics to
it's
say,
an
okay,
emergency at this point.
Go ahead.
I want to wait
So-
till we get to this point for the next one.
You guys are saying that, you know, if God forbid both ambulances go down, then we'd have to do something. So, gonna revert back to that we haven't had a ladder truck in this town for a couple of years, and that we're relying on other communities to come to our aid. And when those communities aren't available, what do you say to someone whose house burned down because you couldn't get a ladder truck up there? Someone died in that house because they couldn't get a ladder truck up there. So at the town meeting, I'm sorry, but the bond rating was just like drilled into our heads, you know, so bad. And that it was basically referred back to the selectmen that they need to make the motion to appoint for a ladder truck. So it would make more sense to purchase the ambulance out of free cash, which at the town meeting, that entire budget was voted on as a whole. It was split up by the moderator and point by point. The first points of that budget were making expenditures using free cash. And I don't think that there was no problem in appointing $50,000 for a police car, which I don't even think the town needs, but that's beside the point. But at that time, because that motion was made to use that for all free cash, it was fully within the budget process, and it should have been approved that night,
What I will.
but it was not.
Were you here from the very beginning tonight, or did you come in late?
I've been sitting right here.
Okay. So were you here for the appointments for the capital committee?
That was.
All right. So I would encourage you to keep an eye out for their agenda. Ultimately, moving forward, that's part of what the capital committee does.
How long?
As well as during the budget process, you are more than welcome to come in and give input. But there is a process for that. We don't just pick our capital plans out of air. There's a
How
lot
long
of-
is it going to take for the capital committee to get around to getting that? We need this equipment. This isn't a you know, you're playing with lives in this room on both instances, and the town meeting yielded that there was $1 million free cash, and that's why someone stood up and came down and wrote that article up with the help of the fire chief, and it was fully 100% within a town meeting agenda, because I've attended a lot of town meetings where the Board of Selectmen has tried to get rid of the Peter Fitz School, and there were amendments that could be written that night to vote on it. So it was full within the town meeting requirement, and the voters that were there. They were notified just as everybody else was, and it should have passed that night. We shouldn't even be discussing it at this point, but it should be used free cash for the ambulance, and you guys should appropriate for cash expenditure for a ladder truck.
Do I have any new comments? Only because you said that your last comment. I'm just trying to move us along a little bit.
Seem to be listening.
Anyone else have any other comments on this particular issue? Go ahead.
Bill Geekis, 108 Lawrence Street. I just have one question. Is it $1 million free cash or $2 million free cash?
I think we're at 1.2 and change.
Because I thought I heard Ms. Andrews say $2 million.
Excuse me.
Clarifying, that's all.
At one time, Bill, we were at 2 million.
Okay.
In fact, we started town meeting at 1.9 million.
Okay.
And right now, we're at 1,229,437 and 79 cents.
Net things that were voted on that particular night. So that's where we are right now. And I understand that people have different driving factors relative to departments that they may favor in the general sense. But if you were to come in and sit in a room with all of the department heads, they would all tell you they have different capital things that they need. And we are a town of 12,000 people. We have to try to balance as best we can the capital needs of all of our departments. It's not just public safety, it's not just the schools, it's not just DPW. We have to balance everybody's needs, everybody's. And so it's not a simple process, it's very involved. Our budget process relative to the process as a whole, including the capital component, changed very drastically when the new charter came in and when Town Administrator Andrews came in. He took a more collaborative approach with the budget. My experience prior to that on the Finance Committee is each department would sort of submit their budget. There was no real, and again, I'm speaking from my own personal experience, no centralized filtration per se. There didn't seem to be a lot of collaborative discussion among the department heads beforehand. That wasn't built into the process. And so now the budget is arrived at on a more of a team approach. And when they pick capital items, or at least they have in the last couple of years, there's been a approach to that. So if there are specific needs that are of a more dire nature, the department head, whatever department head that may be, whether it's DPW, whether it's fire and ambulance, whether it's police, whoever it may be, they have the ability to provide that input. If they don't agree with the collaborative approach, let's say they feel, I get it, this is what we're doing, but we feel like we really need it, and we really need it regardless of what you do over here, they have the ability to come to us and make that case. So far, that hasn't been done, and so we remain open for that to occur. But there is a process, and things aren't deliberately left out for the sake of leaving them out. There is a process.
Nick Benedimus, Palmer Road. Are you saying this sweet spot that you're looking for?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Nick Benedimus,
Oh, Nick, I'm
Palmer
sorry.
Road. The sweet spot that you're looking for, are you saying that you'll know that in August? I know you mentioned before that once you have a better grasp on free cash and everything, that's something.
No,
you're
let me clarify, because Crystal Jeffries had asked Town Administrator Andrews to give his input on what he thought was the best scenario. The citizens petition takes that best scenario off the table, so let me just start there. If the citizen petition hadn't been brought, the best scenario would be to do this in fall town meeting after we close the books for the fiscal year at the end of June, and we had free cash certified by the state, which happens in late August, early September. Because then we would know what we have in terms of free cash at the close of books. Right now, we have an estimated free cash based on, our expenditures to date, but that number hasn't been certified by the state. We haven't closed the books for the year. So that would have been the best case scenario for dealing with this from a fiscal perspective. We don't have that option because this is all going to occur before the books close.
Is that number historically wrong or off, or is it usually what we thought it was?
Actually, ironically enough, thankfully, and I'm very thankful, the last few years we have been doing very well, and our free cash has been getting certified faster because we have a phenomenal town accountant. And so one of the reasons that we have gotten such great ratings, gotten such great commentary from the auditors who manage our books as an independent entity is because we have such a great financial team in terms of the whole process. It's not just our accountant, but it's everybody who works with her, from the town assessor to the tax collector to Mark to the whole financial team that is involved they're really on their game. Do I expect there to be huge deviations from free cash? I sure hope not. But when we close the books, there are transfers that we have to deal with at year end if people spent more than they were supposed to, or there are other transfers we have to deal with. So we have to deal with that. That can affect free cash. There may be money turned back by different departments that they didn't spend. That can affect free cash. So we could be a little higher, we could be a little bit lower. We won't know that for sure till the numbers are certified. But I suspect, based on the value of this particular purchase, there's probably a number that we could look at. What that is at the moment, I can't tell you because they have to look at it, where we could probably do some kind of a blend. I just don't know what that number is right
And
at this
just
second.
two-part, has lease purchase been considered at all? Because we've got this money that you're planning on putting into the ambulance now anyway, that would cover us for the first year of a contract.
We have, and that was explored as well. Mark, I'm going to actually let you talk to that because I know
Yeah.
that we
So
did explore that too.
We are looking at leasing because obviously the 10-year window of use, if you will, is it's similar to cruises. You get 3 plus, maybe a little bit more, depending upon their use on the cruiser front. So essentially, you're turning the car back in. We'll be turning the vehicle back in. We started to explore options for leasing.
So I'm not-
online.
it's-
We would not want to own it after the end of the period. We would just turn it back in. Just be like-
Okay, so I don't mean a traditional lease like people are familiar with on a vehicle, but lease purchase is the name in municipalities doing for financing. So you buy a ladder truck, you buy air packs, you buy anything, you lease purchase it, you don't give them back afterwards, but you have stretched out the payment over a 3-year contract, 5-year contract.
I'm sorry, excuse me, my comment was relative to the cruisers. We would not lease purchase a cruiser. You
Okay.
either outright buy it or you lease it, period. One
So
or the
we-
other.
lease purchase
So
of
we
the
could-
ambulance is a possibility for us. so.
It is a possibility, and we are exploring it, and the chief and I have been working on various options,
That would be a third element for this special town meeting, though, or a third option for a warrant. A free cash, a debt exclusion, or a lease purchase, which at this point, it sounds like a lease purchase would be pretty close to paying the first year of it with the money you were planning on spending anyway.
So it's roughly around 30,000 plus interest a year, what it comes down to for the ambulance.
Just for the ambulance or
Yeah.
the ambulance?
That's over, it's over 10 years then, right?
Yeah, it's over a 10-year period. Yeah. Just-
So the question becomes whether or not you pay more or less over that same period of time, and.
I'm familiar with the process, the
factoring
rates
in
are,
that part of it, so.
rates are very low on it, and you don't have to stretch it out for the 10 years, but a $300,000 hit today versus a $304,000 hit stretched out over 8 years, seems like it wouldn't be a very risky move.
It may not. The challenge there, though, is that would be something that would have to be funded within the operating budget, which we have challenges there because the operating budget's been voted. So looking at a one-time capital purchase, we're going to have a little bit more flexibility in that regard, again, be it debt exclusion, free cash, combination, however it may be. But if we're looking at a repetitive expense that we're going to have year by year that is not financed like that, it would come out of the operating budget. I'm not 100% sure what we can do procedurally now that the budget has been voted in.
So that wouldn't even be an option for fall then?
I don't know. That's something that we probably have to explore a little bit more to know whether we could do that procedurally or not.
We could take a look at that.
But it might also be something for our next one in 2020, which would be 10 years, rather than buying a new one.
Right.
Do the lease
I
purchase.
understand, that's gonna be on top of us pretty soon though, so.
It's only 2 years away.
Yeah, it's not that far. Go ahead.
So if an article is written, the article is written to use free cash, and there's 100 signatures on it, that's the article that would be on the warrant, and we wouldn't even have to have it as part of an election.
We have to vote on it.
That's how it should be done.
Well, the election's going to happen first.
I can write that up.
You just have to be verified, correct? You can't just have 100, there have to be 100 verified signatures.
That's right. And
Okay.
and if the election happens first, that will trump. Because again, that's just
Well, we have to have them in by the
timing-wise.
30th of May.
No,
So
no,
we
you-
have to write, if a warrant was written and the 100 signatures were gotten and it was turned in and they're confirmed by May 30th, at the special town meeting, we would be voting on using free cash to purchase an ambulance.
Yes, but if the Board of Selectmen vote a ballot question and a corresponding warrant article, that ballot question goes on the special town election in June, which will occur before the town meeting. If that passes, that's what will occur.
We really have to see what your motion is before we, the public, go any further with it.
Probably a good idea in the general sense, because it'll
So you
give
have to have a special town meeting
They couldn't vote.
because because a petition was made and signatures were gotten.
Right.
But you can circumvent us and put it on a ballot, which if it doesn't pass, it would negate the whole, we wouldn't even be able to have that special town meeting.
It's a very quirky process. Some of it doesn't make any sense even to me. I totally get that. We don't have to use the June 12th special election. We can have a separate one over the summer. But you have to weigh the potential maximum of $8.40 on a $300,000 house, and I'm talking per year, versus the potential that it could fail if you go about it a different route. And so what we're trying to do is to give it the best potential likelihood of success. We want
But
it
if we
to
can
go
we can word it to use free cash and get 100 signatures and turn them in by May 30th, we don't even have to care about a vote.
That's still going to occur after tonight. So right now it's May 15th.
So then,
If between the Board of Selectmen, there is a ballot question voted to go on in early to mid-June, the 12th of June, and that passes, that's going to occur before the June 19th special town meeting.
what if we don't want it? Does that make a difference?
You come and vote. You can vote down the debt exclusion. That's your choice if you don't want to do that.
Vote it down at town meeting.
If you know that we don't want a special election and that we can word it that way,
You've got a special one.
are you just gonna, could you just do it, you'll just do it anyways and vote for put it on the ballot?
My question is, why wouldn't you want it?
Because we got 383 signatures in a weekend. I don't think there's gonna be any problem in wording,
Get 'em to come vote.
wording a warrant.
Right, get them to come vote.
And get 100 signatures on it.
Yeah,
You get it all wrong. You'd have both articles on the warrant, and you'd have to vote no on one and yes on the other.
Most
And whichever
likely.
one gets the most votes is the one that would win.
If that occurred, so if from a general perspective, if there were a ballot vote on June 12th that passed, and there were competing warrant articles on, so let's say we vote one, and then there's a citizens one, ours is a blend, theirs just says free cash, how would that work procedurally?
That's a real good question. This for a town of 12,000 people, you come up with some really interesting questions.
We try.
But,
That would
yeah,
be
it's-
the
I
one that
think
gets the
it's
most
one or
Life
the
needs to
other,
be
you know?
exciting.
One of you can go either way. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? You can't do both.
Right, no,
You
that part I
can't buy
get.
two ambulances.
That's
You know
right.
what I mean? You
That
can
is-
buy one.
that is
You know what I
correct.
mean?
Okay.
And you know, it's sometimes town meeting votes to do something. They vote to take take land, and the taking never goes through.
Right.
You know.
Wouldn't it be the article with the most votes?
I don't know.
No.
It doesn't have to be.
No.
You'd have the option would be, you know.
No?
I suspect we would probably have to do some research into
That's
that
exactly
to,
right.
to know the answer to that question.
I
God
didn't
forbid
bring
it
that
happens.
particular book along tonight, so.
We should word the warrant article in.
Does anyone else have any other questions that have not been asked already? Go ahead.
You talked about capital items and how we didn't put in for any, but I believe my budget was over $13 million worth of capital items, so,
That's not what I said, Chief.
well, what did you say then?
I didn't say they weren't submitted.
Okay.
I said there's a collaborative process, and as I understand it, all the department heads get together in a team meeting, and collectively you decide what's going to go on and what isn't. That doesn't mean you didn't submit for it. It means that the final submitted to us budget is a collaborative effort based on what everyone submitted. I'm not saying that you didn't submit in the process.
You said you didn't receive any for any department heads.
We don't. We get the budget that's brought before us that is after the team collaborative approach. We don't get the initial submissions and then each little minutia. We literally get, this is what the department head team has put together. We get that budget. That's
From the
what we
Finance
get.
Committee?
Finance committee gets the same budget that we get.
I think part of that point is, and this is a social media thing, people looked at the submitted requests, and there was zeros in capital requests, but that's what you guys submitted. It's not what the department had submitted. So it's kind of
Understood.
information that was out to the public is a little
That was confusing. I won't
It's a
disagree
little
with you there. That was
tricky,
that was
'cause it makes it
confusing.
look like the chief of police or the
Yep.
chief of the fire department or DPW or they're not putting in requests.
Oh, they have
and that's
hel-
why
they
all
have-
of a sudden are people asking for it.
They have
So
healthy requests
I understand
every
that, but I
year.
think it needs to be shown to the public. So.
I would just like to state for the record then how dire need we are in for a ladder truck, okay? And I know Mark is working hard on getting our bond rating up and all that, and hopefully soon we will be able to get that. Because it does take 15 to 18 minutes for a ladder truck to get here.
So come the next budget process, then obviously that's something, if you feel strongly about it, if it's not put on and the collaborative, come to the Board of Selectmen. You have that option to submit your own warrant article.
But we go through the town administrator, it's how the process works.
For something like that, if you feel really strongly for your department, that you need that in addition to what is out there, that does not mean the Board of Selectmen will agree with you, but you certainly have the ability to submit your own warrant article. The worst that can happen is they say no. But if you feel strongly and you feel confident enough that you can make your case for that, then go ahead. All right, any other questions that have not been asked yet? Hello, you snuck in, so I know you haven't asked a question.
Figure this out, I just have a question.
Rob, I need you to identify yourself for the audience.
Rob Rand, 778 South Road.
Thank you.
What is the special town election for? Where does that come from? And how does it relate to the special town meeting petition?
So we haven't gotten there yet, even though it has been somewhat discussed here.
You
It's
keep
the school,
talking
it's the
about it,
school
and I don't
special
know-
town election for
That
their.
should have been said 3 hours ago.
It was said at the very beginning. It was said several times.
Clear on the TV.
Can't help that part, but it was said.
So that's a whole different issue.
There, it's on, whether we want that date to be on or not, that's
already
on. It's there. It's a date that we can use without having to spend the extra money for a separate election that would cost us a fair amount of dough.
That was very confusing because are people trying to put an amendment on the special town election?
For the schools?
I mean, can you only do the school on it?
No. So if tonight, we haven't gotten this far yet, but if tonight there is a motion made for a warrant and a ballot question by the Board of Selectmen, we can put a ballot question on. We still have time to do that.
That was not explained very clearly either. Now I know.
Piggybacking.
I go back to the
Yes.
TV.
Something that's already happened.
That's correct.
It's a 6-minute delay.
That's right.
Doing it to
That's
defeat
right.
it.
Go back.
The regionalization question on the
Right.
petition.
Here?
Yeah.
We move past that already. Go ahead.
So if the people put in for a ambulance from free cash, will that still be on the special town meeting with 100 signatures?
Yes.
And if
We
the-
just may have two competing.
Exactly. So if the first one for debt exclusion gets denied at the polls, then we won't have a special town meeting?
Not 100% sure.
No, you'll have a special town meeting.
Yeah, we'll still have the special
Yeah,
town
you're locked and
meeting.
loaded for the special town
That's
meeting.
right, but so if
But there
no,
won't be any articles.
You gotta get them in.
well, it all depends on how our article is worded. If it's worded broadly enough,
It's still gonna be.
No.
It's still gonna be one because we got a citizens petition.
that's right. So regardless, we have to have the meeting.
We have to have the
The
special
articles
town
are gonna be
meeting.
separate, because they're gonna be
Yes.
submitted either by the citizens or the Board of Selectmen.
Or both. That would be fun.
The problem
Yes.
was that the problem was that the petition submitted to get the special town meeting
Yes.
contained other verbiage in there dealing with what they were
That's right.
discussing, but it's unvotable.
That's
You've gotta-
right.
You've gotta
That's
get a
right.
couple of articles in there to cover whatever you want.
So can I ask town council a question?
What?
How would this article sound to you, in your professional opinion? To see if the town would appropriate the amount not to exceed $300,000 from free cash to be expended by the fire chief for the purchase of a new ambulance, including related incidental costs, or to take any action relative thereto.
That sounds like it's right out of the book.
All right.
I'll sign it.
You wanna have some signatures? We can,
No, I was just asking.
That sounds like a votable article.
I'll sign it.
Thank you.
You know, and I think that you should, it'd be submitted to the FinCom, you know, and it would have to go on the warrant, pretty much that way. I can't render an opinion on the articles because of the way the charter's written. But, yeah, it sounds like a votable article.
So do we have any other questions before I move back up here? Okay, great. All right. Do we have any further discussion from us? Any proposed motions, proposed warrants, proposed ballot questions from?
I have a
the Board of
question.
Select- Go ahead.
Back to the citizens petition for the regionalizing.
Yeah.
Why do they have to do another citizens petition if the petition was submitted solely to get a chance to speak? The town realizes that the decision's already been made.
They don't have to do another petition.
I thought Ned said that if they want to put a motion.
The way the language was, the language you sent to me was kind of, very indefinite, okay? Except for the one thing that I give you is definite, was the citizens petition for the special town meeting.
Right.
The language was kind of like very vague, and it was, the only thing I came up with is, it looked like you were asking for an advisory sense of town meeting vote, because it had no legal authority, because you're not the contracting authority. The town meeting's not the contracting or the approving authority, okay? So it would have no effect on the contract itself, except as a sense of town meeting. That's what I'm saying.
No one is saying that they have to submit another petition.
No.
The petition as written is defective on several fronts. One, there's no legal authority. Two, it's just generally defective in the sense that it's not specific enough. If you got past one, which was the legal authority, then you might have to deal with two, but you don't get past one. There's no legal authority. No one's saying they have to submit a new citizens petition. We're accepting the citizens petition. That's what the meeting for June 19th established.
So there is still going to be a special town meeting and people can voice their opinions.
Yes.
Just to talk, there's nothing to be voted on.
But what I'm saying is they can voice their opinions as to whatever's on the warrant. Now, the article was read to me regarding the ambulance sounded like a votable article. I don't know what the FinCom would do with it, but it sounded like an article that's properly before the town meeting, would not be ruled out of order, and it would be votable. Now, if you want to have a sense of town meeting discussion on the RECC, you could put an appropriate article on that. It's discussion, but unfortunately has no legal effect on the contract.
I'm going to move us ahead now. At this point, it's almost 10 o'clock. We still have a number of things on our agenda, and we have an executive session we have to do tonight. So do I have any?
Can we just do one more on what he just said?
No, we're not going backwards. We've already voted the meeting for June 19th.
No, I'm
It's
not
already
talking,
done.
I'm just talking about the procedure here. You were suggesting that we submit a warrant with 100 signatures on the topic of dispatch, just so that we will have the opportunity to discuss it?
No.
Because if it's not a warrant, then we don't have anything to discuss.
No. So this, again, now we're going backwards several discussion points. The town meeting has no authority, for better or for worse, over the RECC. Period.
Right.
Period.
You can submit all the petitions you want on the RECC. They can't go forward because there's no authority under the law. It's a statute. It's with the Board of Selectmen. You don't have to like it, but
So
that's
what
where it is.
guarantees us our opportunity to speak
So
on that topic
what
at
we
the
said,
special town meeting?
what we said earlier is there's an informational meeting being set up for either the 7th of June or the 14th. The RECC is not on for the special town meeting. It cannot be because one, the authority under the law doesn't allow it to go to town meeting.
So even though it was half of that petition, you've just squashed
That,
it?
and that's where you get into part two. The petition was defective the way it was filed.
Mr. Chairman, could I respond really
Yes.
quickly on this one? You could put an article on there to rescind the contract. You don't have the authority to rescind the contract. This is what we would call a sense of town meeting article. Places like, Lexington and Concord are always coming up with articles against the Vietnam War they started, way back when. Then it always came back about sugary soft drinks that some of them have done. That's a sense of town meeting thing. They could do that. If you want to put something on for the sole purpose of discussing it, you can do that.
Right, but it can't
But you
go
can't,
anywhere.
but you've got no effect.
To answer the question from earlier, was there public input on this? This is why. This is why there was no public input.
No.
There's 300 signatures submitted, and you're saying, you can show up, but you're not gonna talk about it. Or if you do, we're not gonna listen?
No, you can talk all you want. You can make a sense of town meeting, but it'll have no legal effect.
We're happy to talk about it, but we
would
can't
like you
rescind
to
the
listen,
vote.
though.
We can't rescind the vote, is what I don't think people are
But we can vote to
understanding.
get out of it in 2 years.
You can vote you could vote today to be out of it in 2 years. I'm not saying you are, I'm just saying you could.
No. we have to submit and follow through on our 2-year commitment. Our 2-year commitment doesn't start until the regional center is actually open, which is 18 months at least away. The
And that's the
building
point
hasn't
of no
even been
return, though.
built
If anyone that
yet.
knows the system, our 911 system's gone by that point.
So-
It would almost be pointless.
I'm going to move us on now,
Yep.
because again, we have moved past the particular action item that we've been discussing. Roland, do you have a motion?
Right, both of them.
Okay, so I'm gonna move that we,
Can we add a recall onto that meeting if we want to?
Go ahead, Roland, finish your
Okay.
motion.
proposed warrant article. We don't need to talk about that, we're talking about a ballot option here.
Yes, but I think you have to do both.
Okay, so first of all, the proposed warrant article is to see what sum the
I
town,
think you have to read that first, and then you go from there.
You have to read it. Is that okay?
Yes, sorry, keep
see
going.
what the sum, the town will vote to borrow to pay costs for procuring a new ambulance to replace the existing deteriorating vehicle, including the payment of any other expense incidental and related hereto, and to determine whether this appropriation shall be raised by borrowing or otherwise. An appropriation of debt authorization pursuant to this article shall be contingent upon passage of Proposition 2.5, debt exclusion referendum under Mass General Law, Chapter 90, 21CK. Said appropriation will be under the control of the Board of Selectmen and the Town Administrator, or take any other action related hereto. So this is a motion for it to go on the special town,
Chapter 59.
Meeting.
meeting, chapter 59.
Yeah, chapter 59.
This
That's
is,
the
this
town
is
meeting.
town meeting,
Yep.
to put it on the town meeting.
Okay, do I have a second? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, so that's unanimous. And do we have any other motions
On the ballot
on
question.
the ballot
So we
question?
want to propose to put a ballot question on the town of Pepperell, be allowed to exempt from the provisions of Proposition 2.5, so-called the amounts required to pay for the bond issued in order to purchase a new ambulance to replace an existing deteriorating vehicle, including the payment of any other expenses and incidental and related thereto.
At some point, I think we just need to add the amount.
We need to have an
No,
amount.
that's in the motion.
It's just in the motion, yeah.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so the ballot question passes. Did you put the amount in your motion for the?
No, it's in the motion that's made at the town meeting.
Yes, okay, thank
we'll
you. I
write the motion.
just want to make sure
Good
we
point.
don't miss anything.
Which would be less what we've
Yes,
already
correct.
appropriated.
That's right.
So somewhere around the
We'll-
It's around
232,000.
232 and
We'll
change.
work it out for the board.
Yeah, it's 232 and change.
Yep.
For now. All right. So the special town election, I think at this point, it's just a matter of mentioning that we have it on for
Vote on
June
that.
10th for the school items that are out there for the MSBA projects, and obviously this ballot question.
Yep.
Is there anything else that we need to share relative to the actual election itself?
We can just add it, is that what Jim said?
Any
Just
other
add it.
articles that we know that may want to put on the
Just
election?
add the,
They just needed to vote to add this ballot question
right,
to
so
this.
it's been added to the,
So that's all we needed to do with
Yes.
that.
you need to vote
Right.
the actual date, the date itself for the election.
That's set by statute.
Okay.
I think, right? Wasn't the date of the election set by statute too, within so many days?
It's within so many days.
It's 21 to 45.
Yep.
You've got a window.
The town
That's why
clerk
we
said
had,
that.
that's why we counted. I know we had the
Yeah.
ability to
Okay.
meet that.
Okay.
All right. So then I guess that's everything up through the executive session. So do I have a motion to go into executive session?
Excuse me.
There are motions.
date you want to do it for? Did I misunderstand that?
Right now, we're waiting to hear back from Frank Wozniak, who is the regional director of either the 4th of June or the 7th of June or the 14th. But we've given him some suggestions. We're just waiting to hear back from him. So as soon as we know the specifics, we will let everybody know. But that we're trying to have it so that we have multiple to cover different points during the day. All right, do I have a motion to go into executive session?
Okay. Motion's being made to conduct a strategic, go into executive session to under section 2, or item 2 of the open meeting law, to conduct strategy sessions and preparations for negotiation of non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining session or contracts negotiations with non-union personnel. Fire chief contract. Further,
No, I think you stated.
further, the chair declares that the board will return to open session for the purpose of taking any action on any matters pertaining to.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor? Oh, do we have to do a roll call?
Yes.
So, roll call, Roland?
Aye.
Lisa, Melissa, aye. Okay. All right, this is still, for a few more minutes anyway, May 15th, 2017. Board of Selectmen meeting, we are coming back from executive session. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Yay. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.